Welcome, everybody, and we don't have a background, and I'm in the wrong position.
I like it down here.
Control, I don't know what you're doing, bro.
God damn it.
Run the damn ones and twos. Better
You
to
gonna
start
blame
the
me
show.
because you're not in the right spot, Gene.
Bro,
Yeah, it's all about
you're
Gene.
running the
It's all about
ones and twos.
Hey.
If I'm going to give you the
We had
ones and twos.
We had assigned seats, and you just went rogue on us. You know, I was in the right spot.
Boy, that
I'm just saying.
Kent State's own, Cleveland's own. He's not running the ones and twos tonight. College Cottrell.
We're already off to a fiery start here, but
Feisty.
I think this will be a fun one.
It'll be a fiery show to begin with. A lot that I'm going to tell you guys you're wrong about. And that's nothing different. That's nothing different. By the way, I cannot wait till we get to the second baseman list because I want to see if any of you hypocrites leave somebody off your list. But we'll find out. I hope you do. I hope you do, hypocrites. But we're going to get there. I promise. We got
3 years later.
That's all right. Hey, first of all, it's not 3 years later. It's 2 years later. Second of all, you guys just cannot admit you're wrong and your faults. And that's the problems. So we got a lot to get into tonight. We're going to talk about NFL free agency, crazy things that happen. But before we do that, I have to introduce Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, Mr. William Shallcross.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You sound so much better. What happened?
I don't know. I got a new microphone.
Look at that.
Look
You
at
got a
that.
new microphone. It sounds better.
I know.
Oh, it's only been 3 years. Jesus Christ.
Change takes time, Gene.
No, I appreciate that. But let's get into it tonight. We got a lot to get into. We're going to start with NFL free agency. Little bit anticlimactic free agency until the Buffalo Bills went on their spree today.
It's a Buffalo cut everyone today.
Well, I honestly, the funny thing was, one of the lead topics was, what's Buffalo going to do with Stephon Diggs? Are they going to trade him? And then I looked at the free agency market and was like, okay, if they trade Stephon Diggs, who could they sign that's a free agent? Well, T. Higgins is franchised, and Mike Evans is back with the Buccaneers. So your top free agent wide receiver right now is none other than parlay own Calvin Ridley. And then second, because Calvin is going to get overpaid. Like, he's in a perfect year of free agency. Second is Darnell Mooney.
No thanks.
That's my point. So how do you replace him?
Well, I mean, I think you do have options. I mean, I think you got a couple receivers that are going to be on the block. Like Mike Williams is already, obviously, the injury history probably concerns a lot of people. Keenan Allen's going to be another name that I think the Chargers are going to try and get rid of just for cap reasons. So, I mean, you don't have to necessarily go just the free agency route. This is probably the most talented receiver class that we've seen in a very, very long time from top to bottom. I think there's probably 20 receivers in this class that can go be starters day one. Now, I'm not saying they're all going to go be number ones, but guys that can have like significant, starting minutes next year. So I think the options are out there for you.
You don't think the free agency the draft wide receivers are a little top heavy?
I mean, they are top. Like, you're going to have there is a drop off from Marvin Harrison, Rome, and Marvin. But I think you get to like receiver 14, 15, we're talking the Xavier Legette's and, even Roman Wilson. I'm not saying he's that far down, but like a guy like Roman Wilson, who's not a top 5, top 6 receiver, he's going to go to a team and be an instant starter and help them right away. Lab McConkey is another one. Like, I think there are plenty of receivers in this class that can go be starters and help a team right away.
So your take is that outside of the top 3, there are other guys that you could replace Stephon Diggs with.
I'm not saying you replace them talent-wise. I'm just saying you go more receiver by committee. If you can go make a trade and get a guy like Mike Williams, who'll give you, 10 games if you're lucky, and then you get another receiver through this draft class, you take a first-round talent. Maybe you can sneak in a guy like Brian Thomas or even Adonai Mitchell, who's just ran a 4.3. Like, if you can get a guy like that in the first round and pair him with a vet on the other side, Josh Allen is talented enough to find ways to get it done, especially in Joe Brady's offense.
Okay. I don't agree with you, but that's okay. I think
we just saw Patrick Mahomes get it done with who's who at receiver.
How are you comparing Josh Allen to Patrick Mahomes?
I'm not saying that
That's what you just did.
he's Pat. I'm saying we talk about Josh Allen. We talk about the top quarterbacks in the league. Josh Allen, he's not on Pat's level. Pat's on a tier all on his own, but Josh has always been in that tier underneath Pat. Like, let's not act like we haven't put him.
Everybody's in a tier
category.
underneath Pat. Everybody's in a tier underneath Pat. What are you talking about?
So Josh Allen and everybody else are in the same tier. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I don't think Josh Allen's any closer to Patrick Mahomes than Jalen Hurts, than Justin Herbert, than Joe Burrow.
So if Pat's tier 1, what tier is Josh Allen in?
3. There's no tier 2. There's just a big gap.
Okay. I mean, if you say so.
Just a big gap.
You just
tier
argue,
one,
just saying words
3.
to argue, but I get it, you know.
No. I just don't think you can say. And by the way, Patrick Mahomes does have, I don't know, the best tight end we've seen maybe ever.
We're
on
not
that
talking
team.
about tight ends. We're talking about receivers here. This is a receiver
tight ends
conversation.
not catch the ball.
We're talking about wide receivers. When we brought up, bring in weapons, we didn't talk about the tight end class. We talked about wide receivers. So let's keep it on par.
Bro, it's a terrible, terrible look that Buffalo is not going to have anything to replace Stephon Diggs with if he leaves town. That's the problem. That's the issue that's facing Buffalo right now. But that's not the only thing. They cut their entire secondary. Tre'Davious White, Jordan Poyer. They cut their center, Mitchell Morse. They cut everybody, man. Buffalo's making salary cap room for what?
Well, I mean, I think if you go in secondary wise, Tre'Davious White, as much as everybody on the show actually likes him, and we all do, we're all fans of him. The kid hasn't been on the field for 2 years. I mean, it's and he's probably not going to be healthy to start the season next year. Jordan Poyer's been hurt each of the last 3 years. Again, a good talent when he's healthy. Paying those guys a lot of money to play 10 games a year. I think you probably end up seeing one of them probably back there on a restructured deal. But back to the wide receivers, I think it's risky. I mean, I think the problem you face is Stephon Diggs. No matter how you cut it, no matter how much of a diva he is, he's a top 7 wide receiver in the league. Now, you're not going to get a top 3 guy. Could you pair? I wouldn't go Mike Williams route. I mean, that guy's always hurt too. I mean, if you can get Keenan Allen and then you want to sell me Cottrell's route of getting, Mitchell or Worthy or waiting to take like a Roman Wilson in round 2, featured in with Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, then I think it's a different story because then I think as a whole, it's a better offense. I still think they're very one-dimensional, when they're passing the ball. They finally trust James Cook to run the ball. So I think that offense as a whole could look better next year. But again, you can't guarantee yourself you're going to get Keenan Allen. You can't guarantee yourself that you're going to get Worthy or Mitchell or even a Roman Wilson. So it's risky. It's risky. If you're in a win now window for Buffalo. So if you're going to get rid of a Diggs, you have to make sure you're getting something back to fill that role somehow. Because if not, you're setting your team back in a division that's going to be very tough again next year. Miami's going to be very good, and the Jets get Aaron Rodgers back. So I think it's a huge risk. So I like Cottrell's plan. I just think it's very risky. I kind of tend to lean on Gene on this one.
I think the other thing, though, too, is that you also have to realize that they're not just going to be cutting Stephon Diggs and get nothing in return. Like, there's going to have to be some sort of compensation that comes back to them. Now, do I think that they'll get a first-round pick knowing how disgruntled he is with the organization? No, that's not going to happen. But you have to know that something's coming back. And like you guys said, they freed up all this cap space. Doesn't necessarily mean they have to go out and get a tier 1 wide receiver, but I do think especially in Joe Brady's offense, you can see it being a receiver by committee, and Buffalo have a lot of success. Now, as great as Stephon Diggs is, we saw once Joe Brady took over, he was really just a $20 million decoy for him. Like, he didn't get the ball much in those late games, and I understand they didn't, ultimately reach where they wanted to, but that offense still looked high-powered, and Stephon Diggs really wasn't getting the ball how we were used to seeing him get the ball earlier in the season when they weren't winning. So, I mean, I think they'll have the money. They'll have the resources to fill it by committee. We just got to see how everything shakes out.
I think the other issue they're going to have is Gabe Davis is also a free agent, so I doubt he signs
He
back
said he's
there.
gone.
Yeah, so
It's goodbye.
If you trade Diggs, you're now wide receiver 1 and 2 are gone. And again, I actually like, if you could guarantee Cottrell's plan, I actually like Cottrell's plan better. Like, if you can go get Keenan Allen, Dawson Kincaid's going to be a year better. Dawson Knox is still a solid tight end. James Cook running the ball. And then you go draft an Xavier Worthy or somebody like that at the bottom of the first, and you can guarantee that. I think the offense is more balanced and looks better that way. And you don't have Stephon Diggs in the huddle and Josh Allen's ear saying, force me the ball. You can throw the ball wherever you want to. And I think you would really open up the offense for Joe Brady. But you can't guarantee yourself that. And if you can, I don't think you can just let Stephon Diggs walk out of town, because no matter how you slice him, no matter how much of a pain in the ass he is, he's a top 6 or 7 receiver in the league. And it's a lot of production.
You keep needling up. You said 7, then you said 6, 7. I think Stephon Diggs is barely cracking the top 10 right now. I think he's taking a huge step back, and that playoff game showed me everything I needed to see.
All right, but even if you go that way, though, like top 10 receivers don't grow on trees either.
You're right. You're right.
And the three guaranteed studs that are coming in the draft, you're not getting one of them. So it's still a big gamble.
Okay. So before we kind of move forward, and I know Cottrell is gonna I can do this if you like about the Stephon Diggs not barely being the top 10 wide receiver, because I don't know.
No. That's fine. Like, personal rankings. Like, I mean, I think the 5 through 10 is going to be subjective anyway. I just think it's funny. Like, once guys start to have a certain behavior, you just move them down notches on the totem pole.
No, it's not the behavior. It's not the behavior. Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Debo, well, maybe not Debo, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Mike Evans, Jalen Waddle. Like, there's a lot of guys.
But I'm saying, like, he's in that area.
He's right in there, though.
He's in that area. It's not like I could definitively say, oh, Jalen Waddle is better than him. I can't definitively say Mike Evans is better than him at this point. Like, I think he's in there.
I think he's
like your top 5 were no brainers, and I think everybody would agree on them in some kind of order.
I think they had Jamar Chase. There's Jamar Chase. You got a lot.
That's six.
And bro, I'm not. Yes, Waddle over Diggs going forward. If you're asking who I'd rather have for the next 3 years, Dylan, I would take Jalen Waddle over Stephon Diggs, and I wouldn't even think twice about it. We're talking about going forward. Not a lifetime achievement award. I might take Smitty the next 3 years.
I'm a huge Waddle guy. I mean, the problem is we don't know what Waddle looks like at WR1. So that is, I mean,
we do. We had 114 receptions.
And they still went on and got Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, obviously you want 2 receivers. You obviously want that, right? For Tua, you want to give him 2 receivers.
I mean, I'm not saying you don't. I'm just saying
T. Higgins is a good receiver too, but they still went out and got Jamar Chase.
Well, that is not the same thing, even on the same planet.
That's different.
Not even on the same planet.
It's different.
The same planet.
No.
T. Higgins was like a 1 or 2 years in the league at the point they got Jamar.
He's 1 year.
Exactly.
Jalen Waddle was 1 year into his career,
and they went and got the best receiver that was available. They didn't draft a rookie. They didn't go draft a rookie.
Different? They both were on the team for 1 year.
They
went out and got an elite receiver.
So paying a receiver $30 million a year is the same as drafting one on a rookie contract. That's the same thing?
The same thing.
Okay.
Elite receivers are elite receivers. Well, however you get them.
Jamar Chase. We didn't know Jamar Chase. We all thought he was going to be. We didn't know Jamar Chase was he wasn't Tyreek Hill. He wasn't Tyreek Hill
on this show talking about how elite he is.
I agree. I thought that. I thought he would come in and be elite. He wasn't established in the NFL like Tyreek Hill was. Tyreek Hill at that time that he got traded was arguably the best receiver in the league.
No, he wasn't.
Arguably.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, it was.
He only established himself as a top receiver this year. He wasn't in either one of our top. He wasn't in any of our top 5s 2 years ago.
Why? Because we hated Tua. That was the only reason.
No.
Yes, it was. Go back and rewind the tape. We all said if he wasn't with Tua, if he stayed with Pat, we would have had him way higher, probably in the top 3. Like, I don't know.
He ever was on the Jettas. Jamar Chase.
Jettas wasn't even in the league when we were talking about them.
Devontae Adams.
It was his rookie year. Devontae has always been on a tier of his own. But I'm saying if you talk about like a receiver that you want to put in the game that can go in and completely make a difference, we saw what Tyreek Hill did in Kansas City with his speed. There were definitely people that can argue Tyreek Hill was their number 1 receiver in the league just based on what he could do.
I don't think so. I think that you're having revisionist history. But we got to talk about quarterbacks. We're getting stuck in on Buffalo. Justin Fields seems to be all but done. The trade seems to be done in the background. We're just waiting on some stuff to happen. What are you laughing about?
Because that's not where we are. Like, gee, you're just running with these narratives.
Justin Fields isn't all trade isn't all but done.
To where?
To Chicago. I mean, to Atlanta.
So why are reports coming?
I told you this was done. I told you.
You want it to be true because you said it a month ago, and that's fine. But
which
all
is
the
fine.
all the current reports coming out now said
a month ago.
However long ago it was.
No, October.
Okay, fine. But all the reports that are coming out all the reports coming out this week saying that they want Kirk Cousins now. So
yeah, they're using
saying the trade, and I agree, Gene. I agree that it is. I do think it's a ploy, but saying it's all but done, like that's not where we are.
Well, Justin Fields is definitely getting traded.
Okay, that's a fact. That's a fact.
All but done. They're moving on from Justin Fields in Chicago.
No argument for me.
Okay, where's he getting traded to, Control? What's your prediction? Just wondering. Where are we going?
I think he goes to Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying it's all but done. I think that's where he ends up.
Where do you think he goes?
We talked about it before. I think it's a ploy.
I'll give you a dark horse one here. It's a team that probably should have took him. Well, besides San Francisco, it's a team that had him sitting there last time and should have took him. That just got rid of their goddamn money pit of a quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if Denver's in the mix.
Broncos country. That's right. I wouldn't be that upset with that. Speaking of that,
I think he's a great. I think he's a great fit. Absolutely. I think him going to Sean Payton isn't. If I'm Justin Fields, I'd be happy as hell if I'm going to Sean Payton after the disaster he's been in the last 4 years.
If you're going to bring up that, where's Russ going? And Russ is going on a nickel. Russ all but said he wants to go Pittsburgh. Did you hear that?
I think Russ ends up going to Vegas.
I think he goes to the Steelers.
I don't think they want him. I think with Arthur Smith being there, I really think they get Ryan Tannehill to be their bridge guy.
Oh.
Ryan Tannehill had his best year under Arthur Smith in Tennessee with him as his OC. I just think that's a move that makes a ton of sense, especially with Mike Tomlin wanting to have some continuity on the offense. He lets Arthur Smith bring in his guy to at least compete until they figure out what they're going to do long term.
I hate what's going on in Pittsburgh. You can get Russell Wilson for like the veteran minimum because he's owed $40 million or $80 million from the Broncos.
It'd be real. I know. I understand it with the past relationship. I mean, but to one of the better fan bases in the entire NFL, you're gonna have to make that make sense. That if you can bring Tannehill in and probably pay him more than what you get Russell Wilson for, that's going to be a tough sell to that fan base.
That's a fact. You're gonna have to pay Ryan Tannehill $10 million more than you're gonna have to pay Russell Wilson. I'll pass. I'll take Russ.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying I think that's what they do.
Did you hear Russ's press conference or his interview where he said, I'm willing to take less money to go to a team that's a winning organization.
Yeah, no, I definitely saw that.
Yeah, that he wants to go to Pittsburgh. That's where he wants to go.
I don't. It's funny. Cottrell just said the Raiders too, and I was like, that's actually not a bad fit. But then the more I think about it, I think it is a bad fit. I don't know. Correct. I think with all the weird things you hear about Russ and what Antonio Pierce wants that locker room to be, I don't think Russ Wilson is a good match to go there.
Speaking about weird things you hear about Russ, real quick. Speaking about weird things you hear about Russ, did you notice how the entire narrative changed on Russell Wilson? Because he's coming out. I don't know who his PR guy is. That person need a raise because the PR around Russell Wilson in Seattle forced his way out. Diva issues. Marshawn Lynch didn't like him. Richard Sherman didn't like him. There's a lot of guys in that Seattle locker room didn't like who he was. He got to Denver. He had his own office, and he was this, he was that. Like, he was a diva. Everything was turning on him. And then this past year, Sean Payton became the enemy to the public knowledge. And Russell Wilson comes out smelling like roses because his PR has been incredible. His interviews have been incredible. The spots he's chosen to be on have been smart.
I think part of it, though, too, is that Sean Payton himself is no angel. Like, let's not forget, like, this was the coach that was behind Bountygate. Like, it's not like he's a guy that's high on his morals and things like that. So I do think, you saw everything that happened. I know there was a report that came out about how Sean Payton just yelling at Russ, things like that. They were trying to push him to the point to see if he could do something that they'd be able to void his contract moving forward. And then the other thing with that is that how they went about the whole Russ situation, because no one's refuted it about, what happened. Them going to Russ in week 9 and saying like, hey, take out your injury guarantee or we're going to bench you the rest of the year. Like that's nuts. I don't care who your head coach is. I don't care who the guy that's dealing with it. Like, even if Russ was a diva, like that's crazy anyway. So stories like that coming out, and it really sounds like Denver really didn't want him to see with Sean Payton. So I understand, if that story is going to come out, why not lean into it a little bit?
I think that's Gene brought up a good point. I mean, Cottrell just did too. I think the reason he's coming out looking so good is because the truth is what it is. I mean, Sean Payton, that organization did him dirty, and I don't think, no matter how much of the diva stuff you don't care for, having your own office, special lockers and all that junk. Any player that's in the NFL, like if any coach approached any player like that and tried to do them dirty like that, I think they would feel the same way Russ did. I think Russ just was smart and had the balls to come out and let it out before the season ended, which I thought was brilliant, because if you wait till after the season, it gets really close. It's real easy for that narrative to turn on Russ then and be, oh, well, he's just saying that now because they're going to cut him, blah, blah, blah. Like, he let it know, like, as it was going on, like, in real time, like, this is what they're trying to do. This is why I'm not going to play. This is why I'm not going to be here next year. And like you said, nobody refuted it. So that was just, Denver just had a bunch of egg on their face. So, and Cottrell brought up another good point. Sean Payton's no angel. I mean, you look at the stuff he's been suspended for. He pretty much retired for a year from New Orleans because he didn't want to coach there anymore. Yeah, I mean, Sean Payton's not, the most upstanding guy in the world either.
Well, we'll get a lot of more answers in the upcoming week as legal tampering starts today.
Yep.
I think a lot of things will unfold. I think by the time we do our show next week, Justin Fields will be in the black and red. Atlanta Falcons, baby. Calling it since October. I think I'll be more hurt if the Falcons don't trade for Fields than I was if Georgia didn't win the national championship the year I called it. Like, I've called both a long time in advance. It'll hurt. We got to move on. We got a lot to talk about the show. And we have more prospect conversations. As usual, we will start our prospect breakdown for the NFL draft. Now we have prospects. We're going to start in the secondary. We're going to work our way up from defense. Then we're going to go from the trenches, from the D-line to the O-line. Then we're going to lead into running backs, wide receivers, and as always, we're going to end with quarterbacks, which is always fun. But today we have defensive backs. Now, is a defensive back draft. It's light in the safety position, but it's very good in the corner position, in my opinion. We all have our opinions. There could be like these diamonds in a rough at the safety position. I have 5 corners on my list. You could use corners or safeties, but I will say this. One of the corners on my list, I think, transitions to safety almost immediately. So we'll talk about it. We'll get into it. We're going to release our list, our top 5. Cottrell, I know you're running the 1s and 2s tonight. You've got a slow, rough start, but who's starting us?
I got Bill starting us off.
Okay, like it. Let's get into it.
All right, I will start. I have one safety on my list, and he's at number 5. Tyler Newman from Minnesota. I don't want to call anybody a poor man anything, but he's kind of a Kyle Hamilton type player. Not that good, not that skilled. His weakness out of the two, he's not great, on ball defending. He's not going to kill you back there. He's going to make the safe, solid play. He's a very good tackler. He's very good against the run. But he's a bigger guy. He's 6'2", 210. He should have no problem starting in the NFL. And he'll be a very good, strong safety to pair with a guy that's more of a ball hawk. And if you can do that with a good secondary, he'll be a very, very good safety. Number 4 is the guy we talked about months ago, both on this show and Coast to Coast. And Cottrell was, the first one brought him up, said, keep an eye out for him. He's a MAC guy, so, hits close to home for Cottrell. But he had a very good combine, and he's flying up people's draft boards. Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo, another guy, 6 foot, right, 195, 18 pass breakups last year, had a crazy good Senior Bowl, which is, I think the one question, that was out there about him was, how is he going to go, how's he going to look against elite competition? I think he was kind of a big fish in a small pond in Toledo. Went to the Senior Bowl and locked everybody up, and he's flying up people's draft boards now. Another guy that had a very good combine, ran very well. I think he's a day one start in the NFL. Cooper DeJean, Mr. Iowa guy. This is the guy, I don't know if this guy Gene was talking about. This is the guy that might transition to safety. A lot of people have him pegged there in the NFL. Super athletic, super talented. Another guy, 6'1", 203, has very good size. Very fast, I already mentioned, very good speed. There's just a lot of people that project him to play safety. So we will see where he ends up going. Number 2, I got Nate Wiggins from Clemson. Set the old combine on fire with his 40. Ran the fastest 40 there. Or was it second fastest? I think it's second fastest. 6'1", 173. If there's one little thing people worry about, it is his weight. If you're going to match up against some of these big receivers, I think they're going to want to be a little bit heavy, but I think by training camp, they'll bulk him up a little bit. Super explosive running. Like I said, 4.28 40. I think he has a chance to be a star. He's been on that Clemson defense, played there for 3 years. Starter for 2.5 of them. Very good player. Number 1, Terrion Arnold. I think he's the bona fide number 1 corner in the draft. Alabama kid, Nick Saban kid, obviously. 6 foot, 185, 5 interceptions, 12 pass breakups. A lot of teams didn't throw at him. I know, the Michigan game, I think we only targeted him 3 times. Very good player. He is an absolute kid that's going to step in day one and start on one side of the field for whoever drafts him. So that's my top 5.
Okay. Love it. Who's next? Oh, it's me. Okay. Number 5. I went a little homer for you. I went a little Kalen King action. He didn't have the greatest 2023. I'll be the first to admit that. 2022, he was incredible. He's one of the top corners in the country. He was it was a first round on everyone's board going into the year. He didn't have the best year this year, but I think Kalen King is a very Joey Porter Jr. is. And your Joey Porter Jr. went into the league and from Penn State, a little bit underrated in the second round, came out strong, had a great season. Kalen King has long arms. He has great pass breakups, great pass deflections. He'll have a strong punch. He'll be good. I think the best system for him is zone defense. If you put him in a Xavier Howard type role, I think Kalen King can be a guy that intercepts a lot of passes. He's got great ball instincts. That's my number 5 is Kalen King. My number 4, I got Cooper DeJean. And I think I would love to put Cooper a little higher, if I'm being honest with you. I had him initially ranked a little higher, but I think he transitions into safety. And guys, I would love him to stay at cornerback, man. White cornerback. Like we haven't seen one since the Seahorse, Jason Sehorn. But I think Cooper turns into a safety, and I think that he'll be a great safety. Hard hitter, great nose for the football. I love the way he plays the game, but if you watch him on tape, he's not shifty enough to really be an inside corner. So it's going to have to be an outside corner to start with. I think his ball skills and his instinctual talent will lead him to be a very good safety in the league. Think a better version of Harrison Smith. And yeah, that's really high praise for what I think Cooper DeJean could be. Number 3, listen, you might be up on him, you might be down on him. Wasn't on Shalley's list. I love him. Kool-Aid McKinstry. Kool-Aid has the ability to be the best shutdown corner in this draft. He's very athletic. He's great in cornerback. Like he's great in man coverage. He's decent in zone. Where he gets lost a lot is he gets beat being too aggressive. I think Kool-Aid McKinstry could be an elite corner in the right system. Really depends on who drafts him, but I think his talent is there. And I think Nick Saban put him in the right position to win on a lot of routes. The only reason I felt like he dropped down was because of the emergence of his teammate, Terrion Arnold, what we'll talk about in a minute. My number 2 is Nate Wiggins. And Nate Wiggins is an elite shutdown corner. Nate Wiggins will be your day one A1. He can walk into an organization and be a starting number 1 corner tomorrow. I don't think he's sauce, but I think he's got a lot of Derek Stingley Jr. in him. I think Nate Wiggins could be an elite corner in the NFL, elite corner in the next level. So I have him as my number 2, but number 1 and the best corner in this draft, and I don't think it's rather close, is Terrion Arnold. I mean, he had a great year, and it was like what you were looking at on the right side of the field whenever Terrion Arnold was there it was blanketed. You would go against him. You would go away from him. You didn't pass towards his side because that's how dominant he was. And that's what I think really hurt Kool-Aid a little bit this year. So I think it's a very good corner class. I didn't put my Maction guy on there because I'm going to be honest with you guys. I know that Shalley and Cottrell have seen a lot more of him than I have, but I didn't get the chance to see enough of him to put him on my list. I want to put him on my list, but I just don't want to lie to anyone out there and give you guys a scouting report on somebody I really didn't get a chance to watch enough. That's my top 5.
Respectable.
All right, so I'll go next here. Mine looks a little bit different, but I'll start at number 5 here, and I got Max Melton from Rutgers. Max Melton is a guy who's probably going to be a day 2, maybe even potentially a day 3 guy. I think he could sneak in on the day 2 side of things. But at Rutgers, I mean, this is a guy who's going to have sticky man-to-man coverage. Like, that's where he's going to make his money. And I think he can come in, and I don't think he's going to step in and be your number 1 corner by any means. But I think if you pair him with another great corner on the opposite side, I do think he can come in, be a number 2, and be very successful right away. And I do want to start off with as well, before I go on number 4 here, just a couple people that are left off. Tyler Newman, I do think, is the best safety in this class. He probably would have been the next one up for me. And I know a lot of people are probably asking, where is Nate Wiggins on your list? Nate Wiggins for me is really an X factor kind of guy. I have a question mark with him going out and running the 4.2 40. My question with him would be, if you're that fast, how are you getting beat vertical as much as you do on film? And so I think he has all the talent in the world to be successful, but a guy that runs that fast, like, I feel like you shouldn't be getting beat deep on routes like that. So that's really where I'm at. I think he has the chance to be the second best corner in this draft. So I mean, I don't fault, either one of you guys for having him at 2. I just don't know what that translates, especially going to the league where so many guys have the same speed as you. And if you have bad technique or you have bad eyes at the college level, at the NFL level, it's going to just get that much worse. But
real quick, do you not see a little Tariq Woolen in him, like a better version of what Tariq Woolen is now?
I mean, that's possible, but at the same time, like, let's not forget Tariq Woolen was a 5th round pick. Like,
no, I'm saying, do you not see like a better version of what Tariq Woolen?
No, it definitely is possible. Like, I think he has that talent. I'm just saying, like, what I've seen so far, and I think it can go 2 ways. I think he could be a guy like that, or on the flip side of things, he could go and be a Caleb Farley that was a 1st round pick that was really fast, 4.2 guy that's really just gotten lost in the shuffle because he's in a bad system and he's trying to be a number 1 when he's not that guy. So I think it could go either way with him.
Okay.
Now, number 4, I know both of you guys have already mentioned him, Cooper DeJean. I think Cooper is in a unique spot. I'm very curious to see how he runs at his pro day. He didn't perform at the combine, but Cooper is a guy that I can easily see playing safety, but I also can see him playing outside if he goes in the right system. Think about like the old Seattle system, the Legion of Boom kind of system, where it's zone coverage and he has to be responsible for his side. He has safety help pretty much all the time, and he just has to cover his side of the field. I think he can be successful in that role, but I also think he can be successful playing safety as well if he makes that transition. I think Cooper has a ton of talent. I just want to see speed-wise where he's at and, what those measurables look like at his pro day. Number 3 for me, I got Kool-Aid McKinstry as well, same as Gene. You talked about him being aggressive. I think that's really just the way that Alabama ball is. When I look at Kool-Aid, I look at a guy like Trevon Diggs, that came into the league, very aggressive, had all the talent in the world, but just had to learn how to be smarter when he was being aggressive and things like that. Like, I think Kool-Aid can come in and be a guy very similar to that. I think Kool-Aid, you could probably argue that he's the most talented corner in this class, just pure talent. I think Terrion Arnold's a student of the game, and he is my number 1. I think he's the bona fide number 1 guy, but just from a pure talent standpoint, I wouldn't be surprised if, Kool-Aid showed out as the best pure talent corner in this class. Now, number 2 for me, I got Quinyon Mitchell, guy that has literally, flew up my projections list. You talk about him having a great Senior Bowl, and I understand he was at Toledo, so there could be a lot of question marks about, the level of competition that he played and things like that. But him going down to the Senior Bowl and playing against all those guys, like, ton of great receivers there. Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, those are 2 Florida State guys. Roman Wilson was a Michigan guy. He held his own with literally everybody that was there. He was the best defensive back that was there. And then he goes to the combine. He runs a 4.33. I think Quinyon Mitchell has star written all over him. He's made himself a lot of money over the past month and a half. And I think, that's going to show when he's the second corner off the board in this year's draft. But then number one for me, just like these other two, Taron Arnold is the best corner in this class. There's no bones about it. For me, I think he can come in, be your number one right away. And I think he's going to have some success there. And I mean, I don't even know what my serious question marks would be about him. Like, I think he'd come in and have instant success, and I'm not even worried about him. Seems like a true student of the game, knowing, what he has to do, things like that. So I love Taron Arnold as the number one defensive back in this class.
Can I ask you a question about Quinyon Mitchell? Does his rise and the way he's moved up boards based on what he did at the Senior Bowl and the Combine not remind you a lot of like what Zay Flowers did? The way he rose up a lot of boards. And I know it's a different position, but I'm saying smaller school guy. Boston College is a little bit bigger school than Toledo, but
for sure,
right around the same, as far as the scouting department. Do you not see his rise very similar? And look, guys, I was very low on Zay Flowers coming in because I just didn't know enough, right? But if we redrafted the wide receiver class, it would be hard pressed not to put him number 2. It would be Addison and him, like in my personal opinion. Do you guys disagree with that?
No, I mean, I definitely agree with what you've seen so far, for sure. And I do think, what Jim Nagy and company are doing at the Senior Bowl, that's why that's so special right now. And that's why you see like so many people that come from the Senior Bowl have instant success in the league. Like, even in the later rounds, you think about guys like Jaden Reed over in Green Bay, like people that wouldn't have even been on your draft board, but you go to Senior Bowl, you watch him ball out against his competition, and you take him in the, later in the draft, and he's your number 2 receiver in Green Bay, and he has quietly a really good year. So, I mean, Senior Bowl is important, and what you do there is important. So I love the fact that these guys like this can be at these smaller schools and still have all these eyes on them and have all the potential in the world to be first-round picks.
Did you see the Jaden Reed, Jordan Addison splits when they were comparing the two? Like, because they're like, people make it like Jordan Addison's just clearly better than Jaden Reed, and then you put the splits next to each other, and they're almost identical. Jaden Reed had a great year. That's a great pull, great bring up. Next week we'll be doing what, linebackers?
Yeah, linebackers are next.
Looking forward to it. We're gonna wrap up our NFL segment, but man, if I'm being completely honest with you, breaking down these projects is fun, but what's even more fun is watching Reel to Reel. And if you haven't watched it yet, check out Cottrell Simpson on Reel to Reel. He broke down Marvin Harrison's film this week. He's doing J.J. McCarthy, who he already said was his number 4 quarterback in this class, which I think is very, very laudable praise for a guy I see 7, 8, 9. But that's okay. We'll find out. We'll see. Well, let's listen. Let's watch Reel to Reel. Let's watch Cottrell break down the tape, and we'll see what his thoughts are afterwards. I'll leave it to the expert.
If you just watch what he does with certain things and take away the narrative of a game manager, just watch how he plays, I think you would change your opinion.
First of all, I think I've watched more J.J. McCarthy play quarterback this year than any quarterback in college football. I watched him twice with you. I've watched him when he played Penn State. I watched him when he played like Ohio State. So if we're being honest with ourselves, I've watched him. I watched him both football games, both playoff games that he was in, all 3 playoff games that he was in. So I've watched him. I don't think he's so like I think Bo Nix is better. I think I do. I think Michael Penix Jr. will be better. It's just personal opinion. And when you say 7, 8, 9, the top 3. So if I have 3 more quarterbacks ahead of him, yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a crazy thought. Put him 7, 8, 9, PD. But we'll see. We'll see when dust comes to settle. Gotta watch Reel to Reel. Find out. That's the real tape. Maybe Cottrell will change my mind with the tape action. But
I'll say this: he's good enough that Cottrell puts his Ohio State, Michigan bias aside, and is at least honest about what he is. That's how good he is.
Okay, we'll see. Speaking of that, why we have everybody here, we are going to get into our Wire2Wire sports characters bracket, which has been such fired up after week 1. The East was wild. The South is crazy. We have a ridiculous play-in game. And if I'm being honest with you guys, it's not fair that you have a 7-seed play-in game. These two guys earned the right to be there. But we'll get into that in a little bit. We got to start with Friday Night Lights action. Play-in game. You got to start tournament, brother. Come on. Jeez. Somebody got to tell Cottrell how to run the 1s and 2s today. A little off. It's okay. We have Bobby Boucher is the 1 seed. He is waiting with Mama to take on the winner of the running back battle from Friday Night Lights. You got Matt Saracen and Smash Williams. I really like how you made both of these two a 16 seed to play against each other, because that's what the competition was on the Friday Night Lights TV show. So, Shally, without further ado, this is your baby. This is your pride and joy. Announce us the play-in.
So you got Bobby Boucher, obviously from Waterboy, but he's going to go against two kids from Friday Night Lights TV show. Matt Saracen, who takes over as QB1 when Street goes down, and obviously Smash Williams, RB1, kind of the attitude of the team, the showboat maybe, if you will, but a very, very good running back. Two very important, characters of the show. I don't know. Other than Coach Taylor, maybe Matt Saracen is kind of the most pivotal person in the show that gets thrust into his, into the position he gets into. So this is I would say if you're a fan of the show, this is kind of a tough one to go back and forth on. I know where I'm going, so I will go first, and then I'll let you guys decide it. I'm going to have to go with Matt Saracen, thrust into a crazy position. Halfway through the first game of Street's senior year, gets paralyzed, goes from being kind of the backup, nobody knows, to being QB1 on a team that has state title aspirations in Texas. Goes from nobody knows him in school to Mr. Popular. He's the most popular kid. It's a lot going on, a lot of going on with the home life. I think it's a really good character, so I'm going to go with Matt Saracen.
Let's see if Cottrell makes it a game.
No, I won't. I'm going with Matt Saracen as well, and this is relatively easy for me. I mean, you got Matt Saracen, who was thrown literally into the fire right away. Game 1, he's not ready to be quarterback, but he's thrown in there. He goes on, he wins a state championship. Now, as much as I love Smash is a great player, but got to be real about the situation as well. Smash was on steroids. Smash took some steroids, and he tried to boost his skill so he can go up to the Division I level. And, it didn't work. Matt, he got it out the mud. He got Coach Taylor's daughter as well. So I'm going with Matt here. I got Matt advancing. And, Gene, I'm sorry your vote doesn't matter, but I'm hoping you're going with Matt as well for the sweep.
Well, that's what I was going with. I wanted to see if we can have a little drama, but I was going with Matt Saracen also. So, like, when this got brought up, I'm like, all right, let's see if Cottrell goes the other route. Mo in the chat went with Saracen. Alex says, give Smash the ball. Boobie Miles was better, though. I agree. Boobie Miles was way better. But we're going Matt Saracen to ultimately get destroyed and destructed by Mama. And not even Bobby. We're not even bringing Bobby Boucher out right now. Matt Saracen said something about Mama. And it's just, when you say something about Mama, Bobby Boucher, the SC LSU Mud Dogs, is going to knock your lights out. So I'll start with the 1 seed, Mr. Bobby Boucher. We'll talk about him a lot more in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, I mean, this one's pretty straightforward. It's Bobby. He's a 1 seed for a reason. Great character. And obviously very dominant at his craft in the movie as well, which does matter. So he's going to be a force to be reckoned with as the longer this goes.
Would you consider Bobby a dual threat?
In what aspect?
I mean, he was a great linebacker, and he produced some of the highest quality H2O.
Yeah, I mean, you have to give him. I think you have to give him points on both sides of the scale there.
I'm going with Bobby for the sweep here as well. As much as I love Matt, if he had Bobby breathing on his neck and he was over there talking about Mama, I mean, there wasn't much Matt could do. So, yeah, I got Bobby here, and it's pretty much a landslide. Like, it's not even close.
All right, let's make it like 68-0. I'm kidding. Just look at that. Oh, he gave him one. I like it. He got the one from the play-in win. Now, see, this is a lot of BS right here. This 8-9 matchup is a lot of BS. Okay,
South's loaded, bro. There's no easy matchups in the South.
you come out of
the South, you're gonna earn it. You're gonna earn it. You come out of the South.
Rodney Dangerfield from Caddyshack. But see, here's my problem, right? And I don't know whether I can do this or not. Forrest wasn't an athlete for all but 12 minutes in the damn Forrest Gump movie. Like, this is kind of BS. Like, I think I have to go with Al Cervic, because Forrest Gump's not – I mean, he's great athlete. Look, I'm not trying to – I like Forrest better. I like the movie better. I think he's a great kickoff return guy for Alabama. But if we're being honest with ourselves, he was an athlete for like 12 minutes. Now, he wasn't All-American.
All-American, national champ, and you're forgetting that he's a national ping pong champion.
Oh, I forgot about the ping pong. You might have swayed me. I forgot about the ping pong.
You're over here tooting his horn, and you're leaving out his accomplishments.
I was just thinking college football.
Forrest Gump's a dual threat.
You know what? I changed my mind. Forrest Gump.
The funny thing is, too, is that if he wanted to, I feel like Forrest could have got out there on the track, too, made some noise.
Oh, 100%. That's crazy. I didn't think about the whole time I was setting this up. The ping pong escaped, and he was an amazing ping pong player. And he did it for Jenny. He was running to the end zone.
Everything was for Jenny.
Forrest. I'm going Forrest.
I'm going to go Al. All that being said, Caddyshack is
where are we at?
Caddyshack is an absolute classic movie. Listen, I will say this with Gene. I love Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump is a movie that no matter where it is, like if you turn it on, you say it's on, you're probably going to watch it. It is a absolute masterpiece of a human being and going like it's such a touching film. Rodney Dangerfield in Caddyshack is just incredible, unbelievable, funny. He said everything out of his mouth is inappropriate. They couldn't even make that movie today if they wanted to because it would get shut down.
That's a fact.
I thought he's a triple threat. Shally, maybe I'll change your mind.
I'm going
college football and cross country. He was a cross country track star. And if we want to be honest with ourselves, Nancy, the more and more I talk this in, I might have Forrest beating Bobby. He was a brand recognition. He created brand.
NIL before NIL.
NIL.
He's not getting credit for stuff that he didn't really do.
The smiley face was him. Shit happens. I'll let Cottrell decide it, but there's no way I can go in this and not give Rodney Dangerfield a vote here. He's too much of a cult classic of a character, and he's hilarious. There's no way.
The funny thing is that before Gene made the argument, before Bill made the argument for Forrest, I was 100% going Al here. Like, Bill, you did not only do a good job of persuading Gene, like you got me back on board too. Now I do think as a whole, Caddyshack is the better movie. Like I do think
no, it's not.
Is the better movie.
No, it's not. Are you serious?
Look, I'm not for. I'll go back and watch Caddyshack. I don't have to go back and watch Forrest Gump. I'm not saying it was a bad movie, but I don't have to go back and watch Forrest Gump, and I'll be perfectly fine. So, Caddyshack's a better movie.
Yeah, Maurice Powell's killing me right now.
I know.
He's really, and he hasn't even said any of the bad ones yet, which is the best. But man,
Caddyshack's not a better movie than Forrest Gump, bro.
They're impossible to compare, dude. You've like dirty, funny golf movie versus like maybe the most like feel good story.
Yes,
they're two different
things. Who are
you
talking to here? Do I care about feel good stories?
No, yeah, you're right. We already know Cottrell's never heart.
Give me the comedy that makes me laugh. Give me the comedy that makes me laugh. Okay. You don't get the feel good story here for me, but I guess in this case, I guess it it benefits Forrest. I got Forrest moving on. We got our
Wait,
first
after all
little
this, you're singing Forrest?
baby upset, I guess.
Oh my god!
Look, I'll give Forrest the edge in character, but movie, give me Caddyshack all day long over Forrest Gump.
See, I think that you could make the argument for Alice the character. I don't think you could make the argument for Caddyshack over.
I understand, you know, Tom was great in it, the feel good stories and yada yada yada. Caddyshack is much more rewatchable in my opinion.
Let's just submit the score. Let's move on. I'm done with it.
Jeff Perone, that's one of my favorite lines of the entire movie when he's in the pro shop. And he turns around, the guy has it on. He goes, looks good on you, though.
Okay.
Oh, God, so good.
So, guys, I'm going to go second here because I'm going to give somebody an option.
Can I go first then?
Yeah, you can go first. Because I know what Shalley's going to do when you go first. I know how this is going to go. It's okay. I know how this is going to go. I'm perfectly fine with it. I've also all swallowed everything that I need to understand here, but I know where I'm going.
Oh boy! So we know what
you want to go first, Cottrell? You want me to go first?
Yeah, I want to just get it out the way. You know, give my guy Eric Taylor some love here. So Eric Taylor, Friday Night Lights. Look, best coach in Texas. So. I'm going with Eric. I'm going with Eric Taylor here. He wins at wherever he's at, no matter the school. You know, they sent him. They basically ran him out of town away from Dillon. He went over to East and still won. I got to go Eric Taylor here. Eric Taylor gets the vote. He moves on, and I think he's a live 5 to make some noise in this bracket.
Jonathan Moxon is the true backup story. We talk about it all in every other film. We talk about Friday Night Lights. We talk about where it happens everywhere, right? The backup comes in and wins. Jonathan Moxon was an intelligent guy. He was content to be Paul Walker's backup. He was fine with it and then came in and ran the show after a horrific knee injury that Paul experienced. So the Mox is the man, and Jonathan Moxon will be my pick from Varsity Blues.
So, I love John Moxon.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
I do. Listen. Both can be true. So, Varsity Blues. I say this all the time when this movie comes up. I think it never gets put in that first tier of football movies, and it should, because I think it's a great movie. You have Moxon. It's kind of like the modern day one, modern day football movie with, I think, characters I think we can all relate to going through high school. You have Tweeter, who's the lunatic, and it's Billy Bob, R.I.P. And you have the great story of kind of beating the evil coach, but still winning with your friends and doing it your way. It's really, honestly to God, like it's an incredible story.
Yeah, tell all this and then break my heart.
I'm going to right now. I'm getting there. But Eric Taylor, I would say maybe underseeded at 5.
No, we're not doing this again.
Eric Taylor,
doing this again.
If there's a 5 seed, Gene hates Eric Taylor. I don't understand. I don't even understand as much as Gene loves sports that he doesn't even love the show.
It's cheesy.
It's not. Every girl I know that doesn't even like football.
It's like a chick flick.
He speaks to everyone. Maurice Powell even said, he goes, I wish he was my high school coach. Everybody wishes they could play for a guy like Eric Taylor. I'm not even going to say the tagline yet.
This is what I mean.
It's too early. It's too early. If there's
a 5, we're going to keep voting for him the whole way. And I'm going to do another situation that we're in.
Hey, it's just one of those things, Gene. You just got to live with it. You can't complain when it's
going. I need a 4th and 5th host that are normal.
So then you can vote guys like Teddy KGB over.
See, yeah. I knew it. I knew it was going to come up. I knew it.
What?
Listen, Gene, I had your back with KGB. I can't do it here. Eric Taylor moves on easily to the next round. If there's a 5 seed that's going to make the Final 4.
No, if I'm retiring from the show. If he makes the Final 4, I'm retiring from the show.
Don't threaten me with a good time. You won't.
Hey. you even said, I mean, you got if Bobby gets taken out by Forrest next week, then I'm
voting Bobby. Bobby's got my full support now.
quadruple threat Forrest is on the run. Better watch out.
Bobby's got my full support right now. See, now this is not that good, right? And this is a blowout. And I love Neon Bedreau. I do. If you don't know who Neon Bedreau is, it's Shaquille O'Neal's character in Blue Chips, and he's awesome. And
underrated movie.
Underrated. That's like one of the best sports movies. I love Blue Chips.
And I will tell you how many people you bring up Blue Chips are like never seen it. I'm like, that's wild. Like it's an underrated movie. Nick Nolte's incredible in it.
Sonny Weaver Jr. should be on one of these lists. Do we not have Sonny Weaver Jr.?
We do not.
That's a problem.
He didn't make it in the play-in, you know. He was on the bubble, and
can we add a play-in?
First 4 out.
You know what? Yeah, listen. That is one that, honest to God, I missed. He'll be in the Midwest. I will make that happen before next week.
See, Charlie making things happen. How soon do we forget how much I couldn't stand him 38 seconds ago? But
I will get Sonny Weaver a playing game.
See, I'm fine now. I'm fine.
RJ, I appreciate you being the man of the people.
He is a man of people. Guys, I'm not trying to be rude here to Neon Bedreau, and I love Blue Chips, and I don't want to be. I think we need to move forward, right? Roy McAvoy needs to move on, and this is one of those ones where we'll talk about him a lot more next week. His character in Tin Cup was incredible. And when he's about to miss the cut and he keeps taking the drops, like I'm like going nuts. I'm like, dude, just take the goddamn drop. And he just I know I can hit the shot. I know it keeps sitting short into the water. It's Roy McAvoy, and it's not close. And I love Neon Bedreau. I love Blue Chips, but he's not that great of a character. Roy McAvoy is a great character.
And I think too, I just realized RJ putting 2 and 2 together here with Kevin. Kevin, did we ever clarify, is he the only repeat actor on the list?
Kevin Costner?
Yeah.
You got Kevin Costner's on here 3 times.
Potentially 4 next week.
He's going to be 4. Sandler's 2. I think they're the only repeats. I think that's it. Okay.
Well, I mean, I got Roy as well. Really not much to be said here. I mean, I get it. You know, I don't. I feel like I got the hot movie takes. I like Blue Chips, but when you throw out like one of the best sports movies, like I can't get on board with that. But that's okay.
I said it was underrated.
No, Gene said like one of the best sports movies.
I loved it.
But
yeah, I got Roy. Bro.
It's pretty easy here for me.
I won't get into this too much. I mean, I've seen Tin Cup. I can't even tell you how many times. Cheech is a what?
Golf. We got Roy McAvoy's the guy, bro.
We got Roy. Golf is very well represented in this bracket.
Listen, Charlie, Roy McAvoy's the guy. I want you to remember that. Roy McAvoy.
I know what you're getting at, and I'm telling you, I don't know if it's going to play out that way, but it's going to be a good matchup. It'll be a great 4-5. I don't know what to say, but I'll get into Roy more later when next round.
Roy's the guy, bro. Just saying. All right, so I added the little wrecking. I added the wrecking here. Okay, Paul, Charlie. I keep going first. Let me stop. Charlie, the floor is yours.
All right. You got Paul Wrecking Crew. Adam's. Oh, so wait, Adam's on here 3 times then.
Yep. So
Sandler's 3. Costner will take the lead back next week with Sonny Weaver. So Paul Wrecking Crew, The Longest Yard remake. I don't think a lot of people realize it is a remake. The original one had Burt Reynolds in it, who makes obviously the cameo in the second one.
Yep.
Ton of great characters. This is another movie. This is kind of like a guilty pleasure for me. I can't tell you how many times I've watched The Longest Yard. It's if it's on. I mean, you got Goldberg, you got all the wrestlers, Stone Cold. I mean, you got a bunch of other famous actors. You got Nelly. It's really, really, really a well done movie. He's the quarterback. He gets sent to prison for violating his parole because he got caught shaving points in a football game. And then Judge Smails, one of the best accessory characters, kind of the foil to Al Cervic, who we talked about earlier, Rodney Dangerfield, lunatic of a judge who is very, very uptight and wants his country club to be, nothing but a country club. All the kind of rich uppity rules. Really, really, really funny character. It's a very good matchup. It's a very good matchup.
It's not a very good matchup.
I mean, it's a good matchup. I'm not saying one person might not sweep. I'm just saying it's a good matchup.
Paul Wrecking Crew. I mean, just the opening scene in the movie alone, where he's driving the wife's car and gets drunk and hands the beer to the officers, and just there. And then, hey, let me ask you a question, Gatrell. Was it worth it when you punched a warden? I'm going Paul Wrecking Crew, even though he shaved that game. Even though he shaved points, even though he's a point shaver, and I don't like cheaters normally, right here, I like Paul Wrecking Crew. The redemption story of Adam Sandler. And listen, he had to play for Caretaker's life. I'm going Paul Wrecking Crew.
Going Wrecking Crew as well. One of my favorite scenes in that movie is when he mans up and goes plays Michael Irvin to try to get him to play, and goes plays basketball. Michael Irvin's playing pretty rough for jailhouse rules, and he just takes it and kind of proves to the guys how tough he is. And Chris Rock is hilarious in that scene as well. Burt Reynolds on the fence screaming it's a foul, and this is chicken shit and everything else, and Chris Rock just points at him and runs away. It's a scene that gets me every time. I love it. But Paul Wrecking Crew again. I mean, I said it before. The South is loaded. You look at the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 seeds already. This is a killer region of this bracket. But I'll go Paul Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, I got Paul here as well. I told you guys that I do enjoy Caddyshack, but I gotta go with Paul Crew here. Look, long and short, I think he's another one. He's got a shot to go a really long way in this year tournament as well. Absolutely loved his character in this movie. So I think, Paul's got a bright future ahead.
Why can't I be quarterback?
That's why.
Throw me to football. That's why.
It's Bruce's time to shine.
So this is the most. Oh, we're not there yet. One more. Tim Riggins versus Ricky Bobby. Kittrell, why don't you give us this one?
All right. So you got Tim Riggins from Friday Night Lights.
Gene's gonna get triggered.
Yeah, here we go again. And then you got my guy Ricky Bobby, Mr. Slingshot Engaged from Talladega Nights. So I gotta go.
Don't do it because you think Gene's gonna freak out.
Look at the chat. Just look at the chat.
So the thing is that I actually like Tim's character in Friday Night Lights. Like,
shake and bake, shake and bake, shake and bake. If I slingshot you, how do I win?
I'm gonna go with Ricky Bobby. I'm gonna go with Ricky Bobby. I think for me, I didn't start liking Tim's character until just a little bit too long into Friday Night Lights. Like I'd say probably like season 3-ish, because before that, I mean, Tim was just a bad guy. I mean, he was drunk, going out playing football, and then his paralyzed best friend, he just goes after his girlfriend. Like I gotta go Ricky Bobby. And I gotta live with it.
Great call, sir. Yeah, Chow.
You want me to make this suspenseful?
Make it suspenseful.
Make it the least suspenseful it will ever be.
Yeah.
Yo,
just for the formality here. I'll go Tim Riggins just so Gene can have his W.
This is the line. Now, dude, when they're around the dinner table and they're thanking sweet baby Jesus and for everything,
Jesus.
Man, I'm going with Ricky Bobby, shake and bake. If you're not first, you're last. And
that's a classic.
I like Maurice Powell's comment. He hits that nail right on the head. Riggins kind of is the Dark Knight of Friday Night Lights. the guy they kind of needed him to be for the first 2 seasons, like Cottrell said, and then he kind of gets the redemption story on the rest of the way out.
And then later on, he has to go to jail.
Jump on you like a spider monkey, Grandpa. Ricky Bobby, baby. Ricky Bobby. Now, this is the worst, by the way, just to let you guys know. I didn't let you guys know until right now. This is almost determined, the 7 seed play-in game. I allowed the morning show. I was on a morning show this morning with Mo and Chris, and I allowed them to vote on this play-in game because I thought it was crazy that it was a play-in game for the 7 seed. So I let them vote. I won't tell you where their votes are. I won't tell you.
They vote like on air?
They voted on air.
What the hell is that? You can't be revealing the bracket before.
I just revealed a 7 seed play-in game to preview the show tonight. That's what I did. Now, there's already 2 votes cast. I will go last because I already know what the casted votes are.
Well, no, you got to go first then.
No, because I don't want to do that.
Yeah, but you could
wait. So you control the whole destiny.
I say you completely control where it goes. Then
it's already controlled. It's already won. It's already determined. I would rather you guys, because their 2 votes is my vote. It's 3 already.
But their votes don't count.
They count.
No, they don't.
We're not telling Chris and Mo they do not count.
I will.
I think that this is a very easy play-in game. The greatest speech in any football game history. Tony D'Amato is the winner here, and it's clear cut. Okay? Tony D'Amato should win this. Bud Kilmer was a scumbag. He was a bad human being. He sent his players out there to get killed. Did not care. Concussion issues. Bud Kilmer is not moving on. He's not moving on. Tony D'Amato, coach any given Sunday, the guy that made the change from Cap to Willie Beeman with the speech that took Willie Beeman from the back of the room right up there. The inches that we have every day. Tony D'Amato. That's my vote.
Gene, I'm not. I want to go second here because I do.
No.
I do give you your credence to the speech, and I'm 100% on board with you. And I know Bud was a bad human being, but let's not. I just don't want to sit here and act like Tony was just this great coach the entire movie.
He wasn't. He's better than Bud.
Couldn't even get the most out of, Willie had all the talent in the world. He couldn't even get out Willie's ego. You're supposed to be able to check the ego at the door, especially with your 3rd string quarterback. I need you to coach that out of the guys. Now, with all that said, I'm still voting with Tony here. Tony was my answer. He was always going to be my guy here, but
save the drama, because I know if you would have gave Bill the opportunity to make this a weird situation, he might have.
I was always going Tony, but I just wanted to point out that Tony had his flaws too.
I mean, Dempsey kind of hits it on the head. They were both scumbags. Listen, I had both things prepared here, depending on which way this was going. But my honest to God pick was Tony. I think Gene, you didn't finish it though. Like, you get to the inch part. It's how much are you willing to give for that inch? That speech, you can listen to that. I don't care who you are. If you don't get goosebumps listening to that, I don't know, you might not be alive. But I think if Kilmer, the thing that really pisses me off with Kilmer is he quit and left. I think they did it for the movie, obviously, but if he would at least showed back up on the sidelines and at least got embarrassed and watched Mox and all them win, I would have given him a little bit more. But he just packed his box. He just took his ball and went home, and nobody found him ever again. So he loses points for me there. Tony gets bonus points for the way that movie ends, which I think is great. When he has the press conference and retires from Miami Sharks and announces he's going to the expansion team and he's taking Willie Beeman with him. It's the biggest F you to Cameron Diaz ever. So I always love that part of the movie. So it's Tony D'Amato for me.
Well, I saved it, the whole speech, because I'm going to use it in 1 second.
Oh boy.
Announce the 7-10, please.
That was a 7-10.
No, it wasn't. That was the 7 play-in. What's the 7-10?
Oh, I mean, this is tougher for me. Because I think Caddyshack's not Caddyshack without him. Carl Speckler is the character played by Bill Murray. He's the groundskeeper, just out of this world, like out of his mind, crazy. He hunts the goddamn gopher the whole movie. Ends up blowing the golf course up at the end. The iconic master scene with him hitting, knocking the flowers off and just hitting outrageous shots with outrageous clubs. Funny thing too, for Eugene, next time you see Keith Kepley, ask him to do the impression of this for him, because it is legitimate spot on. This is tough. I'm gonna go Tony D'Amato. It kind of breaks my heart, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm gonna go with what I should go with. So I'm gonna go with Tony.
Dempsey's comment is just killing me. How are the Miami Sharks round better than the Miami Dolphins? All right, so I know I'm not going to get the chance to use this because I know where I'm going, and I know that Cottrell's going Tony also. So I don't know what to really say. 3 minutes to the biggest battle of our professional lives. It all comes down to today. Either we heal as a team or we crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We are in hell right now, gentlemen. Believe me, and we can stay there. We can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light, and we can climb out of hell 1 inch at a time. Now, I can't do it for you. I'm too old. I look around and I see young faces, and I think, I made every wrong choice a middle-aged man can make. I pissed away all my money, believe it or not. I chased away anyone who's ever loved me, and lately, I can't stand the face I see in the mirror. Now, I'm going to spare you guys from reading the whole speech. The whole speech is long, but I do need to get you this one specific time. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. 1/2 a step too late or too early, you don't quite make it. 1/2 a second too slow or too fast, and you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone around us in pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's the difference between winning and losing, between living and dying. All right, I'm done. Tony D'Amato.
I got Tony as well. Let's move on.
Damn, bro. That was a masterclass.
So sorry to hear Gene talk.
That was a masterclass. I'll shut up.
It was, Gene. It was.
I'll be quiet. I know what I know what you've made me into on this show.
Wow.
Wow. All right, so here we're gonna have the aforementioned quarterback of the Miami Sharks, Stephen Willie Beeman, played brilliantly by Jamie Foxx, but he's got to wait to see his winner is. You got Paul Blake, who was played by Scott Bakula in another underrated football movie, for being honest, Necessary Roughness. Funny movie about a small team in Texas that has an AD that wants to get rid of the team, and they only have like 14 players on the team, and they got to play both ways, and just a really comical movie. Versus Cole Trickle, the star of Days of Thunder, great 80s movie about NASCAR. This one's easy for me. I don't know about you, Cottrell, but I'm going to go with Cole Trickle here.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to bring Gene out of his hole here, because I got Paul Blake from Necessary Roughness. So, Gene, I know you're a little upset, but I'm sure you got some Willie Beeman lyrics for us here from the music video or something to perform next here. So, if you want to just come back and give us the playing winner, and then get to Willie, we can move on here.
I'm not coming back. I'm done. You guys have made your choice. I'm kidding. I'm going Paul Blake here over Cole Trickle. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm going Paul Blake here. Necessary Roughness, just a better movie.
No way, it's a better movie. You say it's a better character. There's no way it's a better movie.
Listen, it doesn't matter.
It
Steamin'
doesn't.
Willie Beeman is winning the next matchup. They call me Steamin'.
See, I knew you had some. I knew you had some more in you.
And the girls are creaming. Dual threat quarterback, Willie Beeman.
See, I knew you had. I knew you had more in you. You didn't let me down. I got Willie as well. I'm gonna save a lot of the Willie love because I think this is a pretty easy matchup here. But Willie for sure gets my vote here.
Same. I don't need to say much about Willie because we'll get into this as we go further down the line. Can we just pop up what the next matchups are when we get back to the South in a couple weeks?
Yep.
Because it's insanity.
It is. By the way, we're not just Willie Beeman line. Maybe it's not racism. Maybe it's placism. A brother has to know his place, right, Coach? Maurice Powell is killing it with quotes tonight.
So when we get back to the South, you got Bobby versus Force.
See,
Wow.
Now listen, that's a great matchup, but I will say this. I'm picking in the open field, I think Bobby Boucher just destroys Forrest.
See, we had this argument before.
You did.
If he stays between the tackles, I think it's Bobby. Like I said, I think if Forrest gets the corner, he's gone, bro.
Exactly. I get it. But
that'll be the battle of the short bus between Bobby and Forrest Gump.
Jesus Christ.
What's next? Eric,
We're gonna get canceled.
That's a tough one. Gene, I feel like thinks he knows where that's going, but I think I'm telling you, Tin Cup is Roy McAvoy is a Jesus. See, I didn't say that.
What the fuck do we get ice cream? Sorry. I'm done. I'm done.
Man. That's a tough matchup.
You should have had Johnny Knoxville from The Ringer on here.
My boy Jimmy.
Paul
Recchi, Ricky Bobby. I think that's probably the easiest one.
I agree. And then Tony D'Amato versus wow, Willie. Coach versus quarterback.
Might have done that on purpose.
I don't think you did that on purpose. I think it worked out that way, and Charlie's taking credit for it. Everybody did that on purpose.
Everything is calculated.
What are we doing? The West or the Midwest next? I think we should do the Midwest and leave the West for the last week.
All right, we do Midwest. Midwest is just as brutal. As
no, the West is the most loaded. The West is by far the best bracket. It's not close.
The West?
The West is by far the best bracket.
What?
It's not close.
Bro, there's no way
you got like Rod Tidwell. Show me the money is a 10. I'm not going to give too much away.
Don't.
That's crazy.
Midwest. I'm telling you, the Midwest first round might be kind of straightforward. You're going to have the matchups in the Midwest in the second round are going to be just as hard as they are in the South.
I think the West is the best bracket. Yeah. Sandlot is on there, brother. We got a ton of it. All right, we gotta move on. We're an hour 20 in. We gotta move. Great. See, Control's always trying to make himself the star. You never notice that whenever we come off a screen, Control's always
look. It's not. Don't. You're shooting the messenger. I didn't do it.
Put him on the ones and twos, and this is what he does to us.
Wow.
I'm going to second baseman's list, guys. MLB guys, if you're waiting for this, let me tag Jeff Perrone. Perrone needs to be in there. Perrone is our resident baseball fan. Where's iBlack Elmore? Let's get Elmore in here. All right. We got our second baseman list. And I just want to see if someone's a hypocrite. That's it. I've been waiting for this the whole night. Let's see, shall we? Oh, shall we? Really interesting. Really interesting. Okay. Let's get started.
All right, so number 10 for me. I'll kick us off here. I got Mac McClain from the Cincinnati Reds. Now, people, you might be looking at my list saying he's a little low. Like I see Gene has him all the way up at 5. My issue is that I didn't see a lot out of him last year. Now, I know he played half the season with Cincinnati. But again, similar to how Gene was talking about with Quinyon and Toledo and not watching a lot of MAC football there. That's kind of how it was with the Reds. Like when they brought up Ellie and, they had their winning streak going and, they had a lot more primetime games. I definitely, tuned in and saw those guys play. But before that, wasn't watching much Reds baseball. Now I know he had a great half of the year. I just like to see him continue that this upcoming year. And I feel like my 7, 8, 9, I put all those guys in the exact same category. And so with that being the case, I kind of lumped those guys together. So got McClain being my number 10 here, and he's starting us off.
So, all right. So Cottrell will validate this before we get into the screaming match of Xander Bogaerts, which is what Gene's talking about. I totally forgot that he's switching from short to second. My list was different at the bottom before we redid this, and I was not redoing my list at 3:30 this afternoon. Cottrell was a sport and sent me a text and was like, "Hey," and I was like, "All right, like I didn't have time with work to tear it apart." So that's why he's not on the list. That being said, number 10, Matt McClain. I'm going to echo a lot of what Cottrell said and get on to Gene here.
Oh, no, I have more of an issue with Cottrell. I sent him the proper spelling. I'm sure you sent him the proper spelling. But this friggin' Benedict Arnold is written Bryson Scott. His name is Stott, you scumbag. It's Bryson Stott. Like, this is what I mean. I can't deal with this. I need new directors. Give me a new editor.
Oh, Jesus.
Bryson Scott. Who's that? Is that Michael Scott's brother? Jesus.
Hey, autocorrect.
Act like you've been here before.
Tell the guy to get a normal last name.
Matt McClain. I'm going to agree with Cottrell on this. I think he showed a lot of promise. Still put up pretty good numbers. You're going to get, there's a couple guys on this list like this. He came up as a shortstop and then moved him to second base. So you're getting plus defense. You're getting plus defense on the right side of the infield. Good hitter. Again, I think he played 89 games. So I got to see what he does for a full season. But again, it's another young prospect they have at Cincinnati that they can keep these kids together. That team is going to turn around. That being said, we'll see what they do. But Matt McClain comes in at number 10 for me. A lot of promise, makes the list.
Bro, I'm not going to lie to you. I was so close to not having Ketel Marte on my list. And I like Ketel Marte. Ketel Marte had a great end of the season, the postseason hit streak, and what he did for Arizona. I just felt like he was a little bit overrated from at the end of last year. And there's so many guys that left. Like, I wanted Jimenez on my list. And I have Ketel Marte 10, and I almost feel like it's disrespectful. Looking at Shalley's got him 4. I mean, that's a gap. That's a huge gap. I think Ketel Marte is great. He had one of his best seasons he had, including postseason last year. He batted 240 prior. You're talking about a guy that was on the borderline of not being a major leaguer just 2 years ago. And now he's one of the best second basemen in baseball, best top 10. And he plays for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So I have Ketel Marte number 10, but no disrespect. Guy had a hell of a postseason run, did a great job with Arizona. My projections, I have him 10. I almost feel bad for that. Number 9, I have Bryson Stott. Stop, you goddamn. Just kidding. I have Stott, and I wanted to put Stott higher, but I didn't want to be too much of a homer, right? I already had Realmuto 2. I already had Harper 1. I don't want this list to come off as super homer, but I think Bryson Stott has a breakout year. And I think he's getting better and better. And the moment of the year last year with living in a big blue world, got my head up in outer space. I know I'll be Ayo, bang, gone, grand slam. Bryson Stott. I love me some Bryson Stott. I'm a huge fan of his. I've been a fan of his since he came up. I've been telling Adrian how much I love him, how much I project him to be so much better. I have him number 9. I think I should have him higher. I apologize.
I think your reverse psychology of trying not to be too much of a homer made you put him at 9.
Yeah, you're right. Fair.
Andres Jimenez, Cleveland Guardian. A little bit of fall from grace from last year. Still makes the list because I still think he has a huge upside, a ton of promise. Still had a good defensive year last year. But again, the offensive numbers kind of came back down to earth. I think he auto-corrects that a little bit this year. I think he gets back on track. That lineup should be better this year. He'll be hitting at the top of it as he has been. Like I said, I'm putting a lot of faith in him to have a bounce back this year. So I have him number 9.
Number 9 for me, I got Bryson Stott. I got you, Gene. Stott here from the Philadelphia Phillies. Look, again, I told you guys before when I was at 10, my 7, 8, 9 are guys that I all have in the same kind of ballpark. I think the one thing that separates Bryson from Nico and Andres here is that the defensive side of things. Now I know, I mean, we're talking. I'm not even gonna entertain Gene right now, but with Bryson, clearly great hitter. He's great defensively as well. I think the two guys ahead of him are just both better defensively, and I think both of their offensive numbers are going to be right there on par with where Bryson's going to be. So if that's the case and you have better defense and your numbers are right there on par, then I'm going to have the other two guys ahead of you. Now, number 8 for me is a guy that's coming off a gold glove season in Nico Horner, and I think that he's going to have another great year. I think this is going to be a year where Chicago, again, they're going to have a chance to make some noise here, and he's going to be able to have some consistency. So I think if he bats, 280, has 20 home runs, and potentially another gold glove on his resume, I think he could even potentially be higher than 8. So, but that's just honestly where I slot him for now.
Yeah, so you already mentioned Nico, 2023 Gold Glove winner. When he came up with the Cubs, he actually played shortstop. They moved him over once they signed Dansby Swanson as a free agent. Plus 12 defensive run saves last year. Just an incredible fielder. He's going to hit between 280 and 300. Not a lot of power. He's probably a 10 to 15 home run a year type guy max. And steals bases. Good base running. Had 43 stolen bases last year. I have him 8. I have him below Bryson for, a different reason, but he comes in number 8 for me. He's only 26. He's the guy that's just going to continue to climb up this leaderboard because there are a couple guys, towards the top that are getting a little bit older. So, I have Nico number 8 solidly in there. Very, very good young player.
Now I'm regretting not having Bryson Stott higher. I got Xander Bogaerts number 8. I think Xander has a bounce back year for San Diego. I think he had a little bit of rough year. Now he's transitioning to second base. Another year with, in the same ballpark. It really does wonders for people. Trey Turner, it's going to do wonders for this year. Castellanos year 2 in Philadelphia. First year in an organization when you move across country always tends to be a rougher year. I think Xander Bogaerts has a bounce back year this year. I think he'll be solid number 8, great hitter in the middle of still a jam-packed lineup, even losing Juan Soto. My number 7 is Nico Horner. Nico's there because, number 1, he is a great fielder. I agree with that. He's also a good average hitter. He bats 280 to 300. By the way, with a name like Nico, wouldn't you have thought this dude would be a power hitter? Bro, you should have taught this guy to hit the long ball younger because Nico should be a power hitter. But Nico Horner is not a power hitter. He's a barrel guy, line drive guy, places the ball, great fielder, used to be a shortstop. I have him number 7. I have him in that Cubs lineup. I think that Cubs lineup with Dansby and Bellinger, I think will be better this year. I think the Cubs make some noise. I have Nico Horner number 7.
Number 7, I got Bryson Stott. I have him, I mentioned before, I have him above Nico because I think the difference between them in raw power numbers is going to be greater than they are in defensively. He was plus 9 defensive runs last year, was a runner-up for Gold Glove at second base. Another guy, he was the Phillies, shortstop prospect for a really long time. Came up, signed Trey Turner, we moved over to second, make the infield better. Kid's a stud. Kid is nowhere near done. I agree with what Gene said earlier. He's not at his ceiling yet. He is an absolute 20, 25 home run guy, probably 85 to 100 RBI guy this season. He's that good of a hitter. He's a left-hander. He's in a jacked lineup with the Phillies right now. And he plays on a field with a short porch in right field. He's going to continue to get better. Got a lot of confidence now. I think he has an absolute monster year this year. I'm not kidding you when I tell you I really debated back and forth with myself. I had him at number 5 at one point, and I moved him back down. But I think 7. I think I could be underselling him at 7. I think Bryson Stott has an absolute incredible year for the Phillies.
So number 7 for me is Andres Gimenez of the Cleveland Guardians, and this is a guy who's the best fielder at the position in the sport. Had 23 defensive runs saved last year, and I know he had an off year numbers wise last year. I do think he does have some added protection now in that lineup. Bill mentioned it earlier. The lineup has gotten a little bit better, and with him being at the top, they got him sandwiched in between Quan and J Ram at this point. I think that will give him some added protection there, and I do think that average will ultimately come up. But with the average, I mean, I think he can be around 280. He's going to give you 15 to 20 home runs here, and if his average is right there with some of these other guys that are in that ballpark, what he does defensively is, I mean, it can't be stated enough. So I got Jimenez here, number 7 for me. Now
your 7, 8, 9 are the 3 best defensive second basemen in baseball.
Agreed.
So I just think that they're the 3 best. It was the runner-up for Gold Glove.
I think you could. Potentially argue like Mookie maybe this year, like maybe he enters that category.
No,
you're all sleeping on the wrong person.
What you're talking about, Ozzy Albies?
No, Ozzy Albies is actually below average defensively. Marcus Semien was second in the major leagues last year in defensive runs saved. He's a very, very, very good defensive second baseman.
But the point that I'm making is Bryson Stott is right around the same age, on the same trajectory, and very close defensively as Jimenez, but a much better hitter. That was my whole point.
A much better hitter?
I mean, he barrels the ball a lot more. He hits for more power. He had a better batting average by 30 points.
He doesn't hit. You said power.
He has more power than
okay.
Jimenez.
So if you compare, well, Jimenez is younger than what Bryson is by a year, and 2, if you want to compare their numbers, let's go off of where Honors at 2 years ago. Like Stott hasn't touched those numbers yet.
Okay, so just to be clear, Stott's numbers and Jimenez's numbers from 2022, his All-Star year, aren't far off. Jimenez batted 297 that year. Stott batted 280.
Which is more. Okay.
51 is what he batted in 2023.
Okay.
So it might be an argument that Jimenez's 2022 is an aberration because his 2021 he batted 218. So okay. I get what you're saying,
but you're saying you project a bounce back. So a bounce back from 250, you're saying that you think his average is going to improve, correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so if that's the case, and they're right around the same ballpark in batting average,
doesn't improve at all.
Okay, regardless, if they're around the same in batting average, defensively, it's not close. They're different tiers. Different tiers.
In what? Different tiers in what?
Look at the numbers.
For what?
He's talking about their defense. He says not close.
They're not. One's a Gold Glove, the other one finished 6 votes shy winning his first one. What do you mean? Don't this isn't Ozzie Smith compared to Reese Hoskins. It ain't that.
I'm not saying it's that, but like if we're talking about the best defensive second baseman in the sport, no one is ever on this planet going to say that Bryson Stott is that guy. Is my point.
I will tell you this: Bryson Stott's probably going to hit 300 this year or close to it. He was above 300 almost all of last year until he had a 2.5 week slump in August. Still ended up at 280. Here's what I'll tell you: I don't know. And again, I was a huge Jimenez guy last year. He's all over the place. Gene's point is accurate. Was that the aberration, or is that the ceiling where he's going to get back to? Whereas Bryce continues to keep getting better. Like, are we getting another 220 season out of Jimenez, or is he going to hit 295 again? So, I mean, if he keeps going all over the place, I'll tell you this: as good as Bryson is defensively, if you ask a bunch of GMs, they'll take the consistent guy and they'll take Stott over Jimenez. I'll tell you that right now.
So,
that's a good point. But I also want to bring up the propaganda that Gene kind of slung out there. 2022 was Jimenez's real first year being a starter in the league. Like, I mean, I know he had some time before that. He was playing like 40, 50 games then. Like, it wasn't like his 212 was like over the course of 130, 140 games. Like, just because Bryson hadn't come up yet to the major leagues, like, I'm not going to hold that against Jimenez for struggling in that early part in 30, 40, 50, whatever that exact number was of games that he played.
I get it, dude. Listen, again, it's more me asking. Like, I have a really good feel of what Bryson's going to be. I know what Jimenez can be, but I know what he can be on both ends of the spectrum, and that's where it's tough. I think I had him. I think I had him second last year on
Yeah,
this list. So
I had him high too. I like Jimenez too. I
yeah.
hate arguing
So
against him.
I'm not arguing against them, but it's like at some point though, too, to be great, you got to be consistent.
I agree.
And I don't know where he is. Like, am I getting the ceiling guy for the next 10 years, or am I getting this roller coaster? Like, I don't want that. Because if you're asking me if I want that, or if I want the guy that I know is going to hit 285, give me 20 home runs, Gold Glove defense, and knock in 90 runs, and Jimenez might have 2 years better than that, but the rest are below it, then give me Bryson Stott.
Up until I guess late August, Bryson Stott had the number 1 barrel rate in MLB.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm trying to make as far as his hitting.
You haven't seen Bryson Stott ceiling yet, and that's I think Jimenez can clearly he's gonna win probably 5 or 6, if not more, Golden Gloves. And but is he a 295 to 300 hitter with a lot of runs and double gap in the alley kind of pop, or is he the 225 struggles and and he becomes like the old school second baseman where he's in there for defense? Like, which one is he?
I love Jimenez. I hate that I'm arguing against him. I'm going to stop.
Me too. Like I said, I'm not arguing against him. I'm just saying it's a fair comparison. And it's a fair question to ask. You said, like, I had him too last year. I had him too.
I wanted to explain why I cringed. I cringed because he said that Nico Horner and Andres Jimenez were just much better defenders. Like,
I didn't say that. I didn't throw Nico in there. I didn't say that Nico was also a much better defender. I said that they were both better defenders at this point. And if their numbers are going to be the same, I get it. Stott's going to have more home runs than what Nico's does. But with Jimenez, I mean, he's had 15, 17 home. Like, he can be in that ballpark around, like, float around that 20 number. Yeah. And if his average is around 280 and he's giving you the best production defensively, then I would argue that puts you ahead. And I think I made it clear, that's what my difference between those 3 guys are. If their numbers pretty much, I guess you're really going to have to look at it like wherever that home run total ends up, do you value that more than you value especially between Nico and Bryson, do you value that more than the potentially 3, maybe 4 defensive run save difference?
Okay.
Well, see, but that's exactly what it is. That's why I have Stott ahead of Nico. Like, Nico has 3 more defensive runs saved, but if you look at runs produced, Stott has them by like 40. And the same thing with Jimenez. Jimenez is the better defender, but you're talking about 4 or 5 runs over the course of a season versus what you're producing in runs and RBIs. Stott's the more productive player.
Okay. Well, I should move Stott up. I apologize, everybody. Contrell, you're number 6.
So number 6 is, I mean, I got Luis Reyes out of Miami. I feel like with just what he does, I mean, consistently getting on base. Like last year, we had the watch. People thought he might potentially crack 400. I know he folded later down the season and down the stretch there, and ultimately ended at, I think, 360 or somewhere around there. I mean, guy that just consistently gets on base there, and I gotta respect that. I feel like I couldn't put him any higher than 6, just because I feel like the guys that I have ahead of him are just a little bit more valuable. But again, just had to respect his ability to just consistently get on base the rate that he does.
All right. So for me, number 6, I have Jose Altuve. I mentioned Rhys Hoskins, a couple minutes ago. He has turned into the Rhys Hoskins of second baseman defensively. Negative 12 defensive runs saved. I'm not gonna harp on that too long because I'm gonna say this. I've kind of been waiting for him to kind of slow down offensively. And I think he is, but nowhere near as fast as I thought he was going to. There is still the whole cheating thing. Like, I don't know what he knew, what he didn't know. I have my thoughts on that, but he still lands smack dab in the middle of this list. He's still top 10 defense or top 10 overall second baseman, no matter how you cut it. He was hurt a bunch last year, still ended up with over 50 RBIs. I think he had like 17 home runs. He's still very productive offensively, and that'll keep him on this list for a long time by itself. But defensively, he is really starting to become an issue for them. I don't think you can move him to DH, but they're just gonna live with him over there, kind of like the Yankees did with Jeter towards the end. But it's something they have to do. But that being said, like I said, still a very productive offensive second baseman. So that's why he lands number 6 for me.
And my number 6 is Louis Reyes. Great hitter, slap hitter, singles hitter, good contact hitter, fast. He does everything right. Good defender. I like Louis Reyes out of Miami. I think he's a very good ball player. My number 5, though, I want to kind of get into this. Matt McLain, Cincinnati. Last year, we heard about Ellie De La Cruz, and Ellie De La Cruz was this phenomenon. But a lot of people don't realize the best player on that Cincinnati Reds team was Matt McLain. And I liked Ellie, and Ellie was a phenomenon. But you want to talk about a guy that's a blue chip prospect. He was a top 15 MLB prospect. He played center field. He played second base. He played shortstop. The guy is an athlete. He can do it all, and he just projects to get better. He's going to be the catalyst in that Cincinnati Reds lineup. I love him as a whole. I think he's only going to get better, and I think what you're doing is you're witnessing someone step into a situation that I think can be an elite second baseman. I think this is just the beginning for Matt McLain. I think next year you'll see him top 5 on everyone's list. I have him number 5 this year because I'm projecting him to do it a little early.
Number 5, I got the guy, these two both just talked about, Louis Reyes. Ended up at 354 last year. But like Cottrell said, we had the 400 watch going into July. It's a hell of a run. It is. I can't tell you how hard it is to do. The only thing I'll disagree with you guys a little bit on is not necessarily the power numbers. Still at 10 home runs, which wouldn't really put him towards too much the bottom of this list with the guys that are on this list. But hitting on the leadoff spot, had 69 RBIs, which would put him above a lot of the guys that are on this list. Had a way more productive year than I think people realize. +4 defensively for defensive run saves. Above average defensively, obviously. Really good, really good leadoff hitter. They just got to get people behind him. And that Miami team continues to build, hopefully in the right direction. But Louis Reyes is as solid as they come. Gene mentioned it. A guy that just leads the game off, sets the tone, does everything right. Really good teammate. Everybody speaks so highly of him. Obviously, if we didn't have Bryson Stott, dude, I would love to have in Philly. The way he plays the game. So number 5 for me.
Number 5 for me is a guy that Bill recently mentioned, and that's Jose Altuve of the Astros. Now with Jose, obviously he did miss significant amount of time last year, pretty much only played half the season. But, again, with this being a projection show, I project him to play a lot more this upcoming year. And if he's playing a full season, where his numbers are going to be. He's a guy who, has taken a fall in terms of where those numbers are, with him just getting older at that position. But consistently, he's always proven to be one of the better hitters when it comes to second baseman. I think those numbers are going to show, even with how bad he is statistically defensively. But I still think he cracked the top 5, and, all that production is going to be there offensively to kind of overshadow what happens defensively. Number 4 for me is Xander Bogaerts of the Padres, and I think the reason why I have him as high as I do, because of a point that Gene mentioned earlier, with those guys being comfortable with a year under their belt at that new stadium. Like, we saw what Corey Seager looked like when he first went over to Texas that first year, and then the following year he put up historic numbers with the Rangers and really got in his groove. Now, I don't think Xander is going to make that kind of swing this upcoming year. But with that said, I do think you start to see Xander go back to what we used to see of him, typically. So I think Xander's more comfortable there. I think that lineup has a bounce back. I think they're much better than what they were last year. That's really not saying much, but I think you see that production in that lineup really start to improve. And I think a big part of that's going to be Xander having a huge bounce back year.
So speaking of bounce back year, I got the guy that, I talked about previously when we've done these lists. Had a great rookie year, had a great second year, and then kind of got paid and kind of started, I don't know, feeling himself or whatever it was. But Ketel Marte kind of became the guy that we were like, yeah, Arizona paid too early. Is he, not what we thought he was? And then all of a sudden they started putting talent around him, and I feel like he got his passion back for playing. Last year, when I had a monster year, hit 270 or 276 in the regular season. Power numbers went back up 25 RBIs or 25 home runs at 82 RBIs, +2 defensively. Kind of looked like the guy we all thought he was going to be after the first 2 years. And then Gene already mentioned the run that he, the run that he went on the playoffs and helped them get to the World Series. I think he kind of found himself again, and that's why I have him number 4. Dude is a very good player. He's a very, very dangerous hitter when he's locked in. Can go either way with the ball. I have him number 4. Like I said, it's projection. I think we get the same Kettle Marte this year that we did last year. So that's why he's so high for me, number 4.
Look, I don't like Jose Altuve either, guys, but I have to have him number 4. He batted .311 again last year. Now, granted, he was hurt for a good portion of the year, and his defensive numbers have dropped down a ton. But as a whole, he's still a Jose Altuve. Like, me having him 4, I feel like is a little slight to him and a little hate as a whole. But, I have him still number 4. My number 3 is Marcus Semien, who, by the way, is part of the best shortstop second base combo in baseball. The guy is an incredible defensive second baseman, plays next to an absolute postseason stud in Corey Seager.
I'm sending Gene roses for the show next week, just so you can have him on air.
I just want
the shortstop list.
That was what I wanted. That's what I wanted. I just want the little rose, just a little, icing on the cake, guys. I will. It's funny. I was talking to Cottrell earlier, and we were talking about. I've been arguing. I've been right about a lot of stuff on this show, and he's. What Cottrell is really good at? Cottrell is really good at reminding me when I'm wrong. And I love having him in my back pocket. Like, if I ever need to be humbled, I just fucking Cottrell up. And Cottrell well, do you remember when you said this? I'm like, yeah, I do. I was wrong about that one. Thanks.
No, so that's not quite how it happened, though. That's not quite how it happened.
I'll tell you right now, that's pretty rich, because if you watch Coast to Coast all damn year, the man, every time we sogged on, Cottrell was like, "Where are my flowers? Where are my flowers?" It was like the first 8 weeks.
Y'all were giving them. I mean, if you're gonna give them to me, I mean, why not accept them?
If you guys are right, I'll give you your flowers. I got no problem with that. It's just when it becomes excessive, like when you get something like real obvious, right? And you're like, "Oh, I'm just used to getting flowers. I want flowers." No, you're not getting flowers for every damn thing in the world.
That's right.
If you predict Georgia, at the beginning of the year when nobody else picked them to win and they win it, all right, you get your flowers. Gene got his flowers.
Bill, my point was, though, the part that got left out, though, was that when Gene's telling me all this stuff that he got right, I was like, hey, let's not forget about when you said Juan Soto was the next coming of Ted Williams, and he hasn't come close.
We need to remove Cottrell from the show. I'm kidding.
Here's the funny thing about Gene. Like, me and Cottrell are probably more towards the middle with a lot of things. Gene probably has some of the best flower getting things, like kind of bold predictions that came through. You have Georgia. He picked Baltimore last year. I'll give him all the credit in the world for that, because I didn't have the balls to do it, even though I wanted to. But then he's also got maybe he's probably got the top 2 or 3 worst ones too. Like you have the Ted Williams comment. I mean, I'm not even getting into Ronda Rousey. We're not even getting into that.
That's not a proven wrong comment. That's not a proven wrong comment.
Listen. We're doing baseball. We're not getting into that right now. But Gene's got the bookends. So he's got probably the best and the worst. And then me and Cottrell are more we're like the books in the middle. But so Gene's got the polarizing good ones, but then he's got the bad ones that'll get you thrown off.
Can you help me remember? I need to remember one more bad one other than Juan Soto. And the Juan Soto one's not necessarily complete.
Bro, you called him Ted Williams. Yes, you did.
I said he reminds me of Ted Williams.
That's not what you said.
And then you went on and said from next year, from June to September, he's going to bat 400.
You've doubled down on Juan a couple times.
All right, well, let's move on. By the way,
you started it.
When Mike Trout peak, I was just checking for anybody checking at home.
That's one that might come true. We'll see.
It already came true. Stop it. He peaked.
You can't say it comes true until he retires and he doesn't have a better year. We went over this. I'm not saying you're wrong. But you can't say, just like you said, the Ronda things, figuratively, You can't say that until he retires, and he didn't have a better year than that year.
Okay.
True. All right. Fair.
I'll say this, and I'll say it like how we said it when we talked back then. I don't think Mike Trout will ever get better than that. But at the same time, I think he could still play seasons up to that caliber. He will not have a better season than his best season so far.
No,
that just won't.
You can't play seasons up to that caliber anymore. He's got back issues. I love Mike Trout, and Bill thinks I hate him. I don't hate him. I just think that he is notoriously overrated. Like, if we were talking about the most overrated player in baseball, it's Mike Trout. And that sucks because he's a local guy. He's the most overrated guy in baseball. It's okay to
the overrated guy in baseball, and right now in our generation, he's the best player you've ever watched play baseball.
Shohei Ohtani's the best player I watched play baseball.
Oh my God, here we go.
He's the next coming of Babe Ruth.
All right.
Hey, now you just put the curse on him.
There it is.
He's about to bat 225 this upcoming year. Have 31 home runs and
you're number 3, Sally. You're number 3.
I'm getting off this show and I'm betting like $8,000 for Shohei Ohtani to bat under 250 now. I'm cashing that.
All right,
number 3. This guy is a menace to me, and he's a menace to me because he's so goddamn good. The reason he's 3 and not 1 or 2, he's literally the definition of average defensively across the board. In every metric, he is literally like near 0 or middle of the pack. Offensively, different story. He is one of the young guys that Atlanta brought up like they always do, that drafted. Every freaking kid they draft is a winner. He's another one of them. 280 batting average, 33 home runs, 109 RBIs out of the second base position. The dude is just an offensive threat. He's another one of those guys that I'm gonna hate him because I got to watch him play against us for the next 10 years at least, probably. The kid's a stud though. If he can take some steps defensively, I think he can move up to this list and be 1 or 2. I really do, because he's that good. He bats behind Acuna and in front of either Matt Olson or Austin Riley. His numbers are always just going to be incredible. Always, if he continues to hit the ball like he is. Absolute stud. I hate to say because he plays for the Braves, but I have to maintain my journalistic integrity here. He is what he is. He's great. He's number 3. Ozzy Albies.
Yes, I mean at number 3, I also have Ozzy from Atlanta, and I'll just parlay these two together with him in my number 2. Power number wise, I mean I think these two can be relatively close. I think Ozzy, we know what he does there. Bill already talked about him being a middle of the pack defender there, and with Marcus, Bill brought it up earlier as well with where he finished in the Gold Glove race. Obviously, finished second there. Marcus is better defensively. I think again, like I mentioned earlier with some of the other guys on my list, if the power numbers and just the offensive numbers are going to be in the same ballpark, then I'm going to ultimately roll with the better defensive player. And I was just staying consistent here. So for number 2, I got Marcus Semien of the Rangers. I think he can replicate the year that he had last year, and he had a lot of success down there in Texas. He has the protection in the lineup, and he has great players playing around him as well. So I just think he has another great year down there in Texas.
I got Marcus Semien number 2 as well. I mentioned this earlier in the show. If you line all these guys up, by some metrics, some people think he got robbed last year. Defensive run saves, your major league leader last year with 16 is Marcus Semien. Hits right in front of the guy that Gene just brought up in Corey Seager. Another huge, offensive year for him last year. Hit 276, 29 home runs, 100 RBIs, 14 stolen bases. He's one of the older guys on this list. He's 33, same age as Jose Altuve. So it shows you the difference in how they're still producing offensively, but especially defensively. One half of the best middle infield in the league. Gene was right with that as well. They're getting every penny's worth they got for that huge contract that they signed, which me being included, I think when he left Toronto and signed that, I don't blame him for signing the deal. I thought they were overpaying him. You can chalk that up in the wrong column for me. He continues to do it, man. Really good hitter, really good player, World Series champion now. Marcus Semien, number 2.
So I think this is the only difference between me and these two guys. And look, I hate Ozzy Albies. I would love to root against him. You're talking about Ozzy Albies, the guy said attaboy Bryce, and Bryce Harper, the famous stare down after he hit the second home run. I would love to underrate Ozzy Albies, but the comments that they're both saying are a little inaccurate, right? Marcus Simeon's the better fielder, and that's there's no questions there. But to pretend that their offensive numbers are like really similar, that's not really where we're at. Like Ozzy Albies is a better offensive player across the board. He hits for more home runs. He has a better slugging percentage. He's just a better overall player. So I don't want Ozzy Albies to be my number 2, but he's my number 2. My number 1 is Mookie Betts, and I think that'll be number 1 across the board. I predicted last year he'd make the change from outfield to second base. He didn't fully do that. He probably should have been more on the outfielder list last year. He's now their opening day projected second baseman. I was a little ahead of the curve. I had Mookie Betts number 1 last year. He's number 1 this year. The guy's going to score like 150 runs in the top of that Dodgers lineup. He's incredible. He's a great hitter. He's going to be a very good defender. I got Mookie Betts number 1.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm gonna agree. Mookie's going to number 1. I mean, it's kind of a cheat code for the Dodgers to bring in that good of an athlete from the outfield, who is one of the top outfielders in the entire game. And now they're just going to put him at second base, second base, and let him run around there. Leadoff hitter, like Gene said, his numbers are going to be stupid again this year. He'll be in the top of the MVP race like he was last year. Nothing's going to change. There's not too much to say. It's kind of rinse repeat from every year with Mookie. Boston never should have let him go. They should have paid him. But Dodgers have no problem whipping out the checkbook. So he will be leadoff hitter. He'll be the second baseman. He will probably score 140 runs, close to 100 RBIs. And I will be interested to see him playing there for a whole season, what his defensive metrics look like. But I project him to be on the plus side. So that made it really easy to put him number 1 on the list.
Without beating
Godfrey's right. It was RC and not Albies. I apologize.
For what?
The comments made the Bryce.
The stare down.
Yeah.
Oh,
I got it wrong.
But yeah, I'm not to be a dead horse here. I got Mookie as well. I mean, what Mookie's numbers look like offensively. I mean, he's 300 hitter. He's going to have 30 plus home runs, 100 plus RBIs, probably 130 at least runs scored. I think numbers wise, it'll be a clear, number 1 from this year. And Gene, I couldn't wait to give you your roses on this one, because you were ahead of the curve here and talking about Mookie, playing more second, obviously with Gavin getting hurt, but I think Mookie's going to have a great first full year playing at second.
Ozzy was the one that threw the ball to first base, and RC was the one that made the comments. That's my fault. I misspoke there. But all right, well, let's move on to UFC, guys. We're a little behind. I appreciate everybody that's still in the chat, that's still talking to us. We're a little deep. This is a loaded card at 299, but for the sake of time and for the sake of we can't talk about 17 fights, we're going to only address the top 2 fights on this card. But before we do this, if you're going to turn into a UFC pay-per-view that's not 300, 299 might be the one. Curtis Blades versus Almeida. That's a great fight. Big Mouth Holland versus Page. Man, Gilbert Burns versus Jack Maldonado. There's so many good fights on this card. It's tough. It's tough to break down all of them.
For sure.
What we will do, though, is we'll tell you about Dustin Poirier versus Saint Denis, and we'll give our predictions on Sugar Show Sean O'Malley versus Cheeto Vera 2. The only loss that Sugar Show has in its career was to Cheeto. So, obviously, Sean O'Malley is still a big favorite. But let's talk about Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint Denis. This is Control. I know you're a great preview guy, and I don't want to get too far into this, but I want to remind everyone we have a really, really good UFC show that comes on the Wire2Wire network on Friday night, Road to Gold. These guys are super intelligent. Dylan and Ron are incredible at this, breaking this down. So if you want to break down the full card And the reason that this is kind of the way we're going to be with college football. We're going to give you a taste, but then you're going to turn into coast to coast. This is kind of the way we are at baseball. We're going to give you a taste, but you got to turn into up and in. We're going to give you a taste of this UFC card, but if you want a full breakdown before the card happens, make sure you tune in to Road to Gold Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's break down the fight. Cottrell, get us started. Just like Shally is our guy for MLB and the sports characters bracket, you're definitely our UFC guy.
Yeah, so I mean, you got Dustin the Diamond Poirier coming off of a little bit of a skid here, and then you got Benoit Saint-Denis on the other side, and this is a fight where this is really Benoit's first true big test in this weight class, being in the UFC, and then you got Dustin, who is really kind of in purgatory situation where we know he's not fighting for the belt anytime soon. At least we don't think so, especially with Gaethje seemingly being the next guy up there. But Dustin's a guy who's got to get a win under his belt here or potentially retire sometime soon. He's not getting any younger. Now, personally, I see this being a Dustin Poirier win. I think he's going to win with experience. I think this is a guy who has that experience. And, once you get later on in this fight, I think that experience will show. So I got Dustin. I got it by decision. I think he wins a close fight. I got it 3-2, but I like Dustin to win a pretty tight fight.
I'm going to go with Cottrell on this one as well. I think every time you look at it and you think Dustin should lose, or I think he's going to lose, he turns around and has a great fight and kind of has that moment where he pulls something out. I think that's going to happen Saturday night. This is the first big step up for Saint Denis. And again, I think Dustin needs this fight to really kind of stay relevant, because if not, I mean, it's kind of it's kind of slim pickings after this. The experience factor, I think, matters. I think the one thing that he's got to try to avoid, which he's done kind of, throughout his career, he tends to start slow sometimes. And I don't think you necessarily just give a round away in a fight that we all expect to be close. But I do think he'll lean on his experience, especially being in this stage with, many times before and many of the big fights that he's been in. I think he pulls out a close decision. I kind of see it exactly like Cottrell.
So I know this sounds kind of crazy, right? I think this is the drop gloves fight for Dustin Poirier. And the reason I feel that way is,
I don't think that's crazy.
Well,
by the
the
way.
reason I feel this way is Poirier's been knocked out before. Like, he was knocked out by Conor McGregor. He's knocked out by Michael Johnson. But a lot of those were TKOs. They were punches and flurries. The way he was knocked out by Justin Gaethje was just a little bit different. He got smoked. And I think that changes the way a fighter approaches a fight. And I think that when Gaethje really turned the corner after the first time they fought, which was such a great fight, when Poirier beat Gaethje in a just absolute battle, there's a time where a fighter gets a little punch drunk. And I'm almost pre-predicting the punch drunkness of Dustin Poirier, sadly, because the Diamond is an absolute stud in the ring. But I think Benoit Saint-Denis is the guy that's going to end it for him. The God of War. I think he's stepping up to a major fight. I think that Dustin will look very sharp in the first round. I think Benoit ends up catching him in maybe the end of the second, early third, and ends this one by TKO or KO. And I think Dustin drops the gloves after the fight.
I don't think that's crazy at all, Gene, because I agree. If he loses in that fashion, I mean, there really is nowhere for Dustin to go. He's already said, he doesn't want to be a gatekeeper. He wants to keep fighting until he doesn't feel like he has a shot to potentially go back and win the belt. And if you lose this fight, not saying Benoit is a bad fighter by any means, but if you lose this fight, we're talking another 2, maybe even 3 years before you get back in that true title picture. So I agree with what you said.
All right, well, let's move on to the main event of the evening. This is different, right? Chito Vera, if you don't know, Chito Vera is the one that gave Sean O'Malley his first loss. But it wasn't, he caught him, right? It wasn't, anything crazy. Cottrell, break it down for us.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think that is the one thing that kind of baffles me a little bit because I definitely thought that this fight looked different from the first time around. I went back and rewatched it. And so what happened in the first fight was they were pretty even pretty much the whole entire first round. Sean made a misstep, like basically, had some issues going on with his ankle, and he was compromised the rest of the fight. And then, Cheeto taking advantage of that, he put the pressure on Sean, and Sean was backing away. And ultimately, he got to the ground after Sean just fell. Like, he took a step, ankle didn't support him, he fell. And Cheeto got on top and grounded and pounded him, and Herb Dean stopped the fight. But Marlon actually didn't even land a shot to put Sean down in that first fight. It was actually pretty even on the stand-up before the injury happened. But Sean O'Malley is a guy who's, obviously the huge rise to fame, they kind of slow played him, but essentially got the rocket strapped to his back. Cheeto Vera's coming off some good key wins as of late. He's got Pedro Munoz. He's got a Dominic Cruz win as well. And this is, again, going to be the second time these guys have squared off in the octagon. Now, I think without that injury, I think Sean is the better fighter here. This is going to be a fight that is going to stay on the feet pretty much the entire time. So I think with that being the case, we're going to have Sean O'Malley having the advantage there. And so I think Sean gets him. I think this is going to be a knockout or a TKO. I see this being done in like the second round. Cheeto's typically a slow starter, and I think Sean catches him in one of the earlier rounds.
I'm going to go with Sean O'Malley as well. I'll go third round TKO. Again, I think, I kind of agree with Cottrell. I think the first fight had some different circumstances to it, which made him, fight a little differently. Got caught, like Gene said, it happens. It's part of fighting. But that being said, I think Sean's a way different fighter now than he was the first time they fought. I think with him being such a good counter puncher and being able to fight in that style, I think Marlon Vera is going to have to come forward a lot, towards the end of this fight, especially if O'Malley wins the first couple rounds. And I think that's where he gets caught. I think Sean will hit him with something, probably knock him down, TKO him, flurry of punches, get a stoppage, that type thing. So I think Sean O'Malley retains and still.
Where I struggle when I pick UFC fights is projecting things I've never seen before. I've never seen Cheeto Vera knocked out. Never. And he's a slow starter, notorious slow starter. But he's faster than Sean. And Sean's one of the fastest in the division, but Cheeto is faster than him. So what I'm looking at in this fight is a very sharp technical fighter in Sean O'Malley that can land that knockout punch and that power, and is going to have the reach advantage by several inches. But when I look at, I see Marlon Cheeto Vera, who is quicker. And if he gets on that inside and can land that Sunday punch, I actually am predicting the upset in this one. I think Cheeto Vera wins this one. If Sean O'Malley wins the fight, I'll project it to be by decision. And it would not surprise me. I don't think Sean O'Malley knocks out Cheeto Vera. I think that you might see a 2-0 fight going into the third, but I think Cheeto Vera really takes control of the fight come the third round. And if I'm giving you my projection, I'll give a fourth round stoppage Cheeto Vera. TKO.
I think the only other thing that I do want to add into, and I know they're going to go over it more on Road to Go, but Sean did a great job of attacking Cheeto's legs in that first fight. And Sean's very comfortable fighting out of orthodox or southpaw. So whenever Cheeto made the stance switches as well, he still did a good job of attacking both legs and, really slowing down that speed that Gene talks about with Cheeto. So I think if Sean comes in with that same game plan, then I think that's going to be how you start to try and, I should say, take away from some of what Cheeto's speed is going to be.
Cheeto Vera did a really poor job on his media day. Tried to bring up some stuff about Sean O'Malley and what he liked. And I'm going to be honest with you, man. If you haven't watched that yet, it's a really funny watch, but it's a really awkward watch. I think some of these UFC fighters do a really poor job of selling fights, right? I think that Cheeto Vera did a very poor job of trying to sell this fight. It might be worth a watch. It might be a you got to be kidding me for someone. We never know. But let's move on. Let's get into you got to be kidding me. We're already over the 2-hour mark. Now listen, now Cottrell is the star of the show. I mean, Bill is main event of the evening. Let's get into You Got to Be Kidding Me, Cottrell.
All right, so for me this week, I am going to the ranks of college football. I'm going with Arch Manning of the Texas Longhorns. So for Arch this week, obviously there's a big story about college football. The game is returning, and the report came out that 90% of athletes are opting into the game. Well, Arch Manning came out and basically said that, I'm focused on football and I decided to opt out. But for me, that makes absolutely no sense, because if you go onto the app and you opt in and then just let that go, you're absolutely done with it. You don't have to go shoot any commercials. You don't have to, do anything with any gameplay, anything like that. You're completely done with it. So to me, this really just seemed like, he didn't want to go into the game knowing that he was going to be the backup quarterback and potentially have a lower rating. And so if that's the case, you want to focus on football, keep that same energy next year when the time rolls around and it's time for those athletes to opt in, where you're going to be the starting quarterback at Texas, have a higher overall and all that stuff, be in those Heisman talks. Keep that same energy once that time rolls around, because I don't understand how you want to focus on football now, but then later on, if you switch up things and it turns into that. So this week for me, Arch Manning decided to stick it to EA, focus on college football and not being the new game coming out.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
I don't have that this week. Nobody really made me that overtly mad. Nobody really pissed me off. There is a really good one brewing though, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out the rest of this weekend.
Well, I have one, and I did a TikTok on it earlier today, and it was very easy. Tyreek Hill was on the Pivot podcast. Now, this was aired recently, but it was shot right before the Super Bowl. In the podcast, Tyreek Hill repeated and doubled down on the Miami Dolphins being the better team than the Kansas City Chiefs. You can't say that, Tyreek. You lost to them twice. And let's just say the losses to the Chiefs they were flukes, right? Miami was really the better team, but circumstances happened. Then the Chiefs went on to win the Super Bowl. Then he doubled down even more by saying, do you really think the Chiefs were the better team than the Ravens? And the entire Pivot were like, well, yeah, they beat them in the playoffs in Baltimore. So yes, they're the better team. He's like, yeah, but, the defenses, they line up pretty similar, but the offense is way better over in Baltimore. I mean, you got Pat and Travis, but outside of Pat and Travis, you really don't have anybody in Kansas City. Dude, a little humility will go a long way. Tyreek Hill has been known for very outlandish and bold takes. This was a really bold one to say about the Super Bowl champions. And then to basically call out some of your former teammates, one being Mecole Hardman, by saying they have nobody else over there outside of Pat and Travis. While I don't necessarily disagree with you, that was enough to win the Super Bowl. They also have Andy Reid, who's one of the best coaches in all of football. But they beat you guys twice. Tyreek, come on. Sometimes that guy needs a muzzle. And for that, this week, Tyreek Hill.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
It's crazy that he said like that stuff. And then if you listen to the whole thing, there was parts of it where he was very like open and honest and like kind of almost like introspective and like reflective, that like I thought was like kind of really refreshing for him. Like wasn't like, didn't really have the attitude or anything, like talking about like where he would have been if he didn't have football and all that stuff. And then he still kind of went and said that stuff anyway. So I was like,
Ryan Clark shut him down. And Ryan Clark says the only people that say things like that are people that never made a Super Bowl. That's why I'm surprised that it comes from someone like you.
Eesh.
I love RC, man. RC, I love him, man.
He's done a great job.
All right. Well,
he's made quite a career for himself.
We are not leaving here tonight without a really special shout out to someone very close to the show. So, Shally, I will pass the rock to my friend.
Happy, somewhat belated birthday to my little sister, Katie. Anybody who knows me, she is my favorite person in the world. I'm very lucky. I'm blessed with the best younger sister in the world. She turned into a great mother. Jonathan David, he's a little terrorist, but he's a great little kid. She's done a great job. But I just want to wish her happy birthday. I know you're getting older. I know it sucks. I know, you wake up and everything hurts, but that's part of the fun of all of it. But I just want to say I love you. Hope you had a great birthday. And that's it.
Katie, we love you. Happy birthday. Cottrell, any final thoughts?
Nothing for me.
Nothing for me either. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Sorry, went a little over the normal 2 hours. We had a lot of discussion, a lot of fun banter tonight. So thank you guys for tuning in the Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. Make sure you check out all the great content on Wire2Wire Network, Podcast Network. Tomorrow we have the morning show. Tomorrow night we have End One. Friday, Road to Gold. And Saturday, another episode of Real to Real. And then Sunday, we have a great baseball show up and in with Black Elmore and Chris Hackney. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for tuning in to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. That's Kent State's own, Cleveland's own College Cottrell, Uncle Shally, Scholastic Shally, and the brother of the famous Katie Wiley. We are signing out.